Welcome to the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. I'm your host, David Riddle. So where do I want to start with my guest today? Before PCSL Nats, I knew nothing about this guy. Didn't know his name. He probably didn't know I existed. I didn't know he existed. That's about where we were. And then, if you happen to see a post on Instagram, as I'm recording two stages, I'm walking over to one and I hear the audience go crazy. And I'm like, what in the world did I just miss? Well, thank goodness the cameras were rolling and I got to see what I missed. But he decides that barriers were never meant for him, does the old leap over a barrier onto an unsteady bridge. Won a little cash for it. So I'm like, this is probably somebody who would be a very interesting conversation. So that is how we came about with our guest today. So if you would, join me in welcoming yet another guest from the left side of the country, Mr. Jake Denno.
I'm here. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. If you would take just a brief moment and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Jake Denno. I'm in Southeast Arizona. I actually work as a professor. I've been shooting competitively for about 15, 16 years now. And like Mr. Riddle said, we met over at Nationals. I decided to do something dumb. They said cash was available. They said do something cool or impressive, you might get a little cash. And I decided to make bad choices with a firearm, which is always when you should do it. It was all safe. So like I said, I've been shooting for about 15 years. I started as a junior shooter. I started in some local matches and then worked myself up through actually the AMU junior camps and started doing 3-gun competitions. When 3-Gun Nation was big, the 3-Gun Nation tour, I was heavily involved in that and shot that until about the time I graduated high school. And then I kind of got away from the shooting world and am getting back into it now. So PCSL was my first foray back into a big major match. It was a lot of fun. It was a really well done match. So, almost everything I did was from a competitive standpoint. I've taught some law enforcement guys. I've interned for law enforcement, but otherwise just a standard civilian shooter, responsible armed citizen, that sort of thing.
Wow. Okay. Man, there's a lot to unwrap there.
Yeah.
Plus, I saw you do BJJ.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to have to, sidetrack onto that one at some point.
Yep.
But I like to hit you with some questions up front to get the hard drive spinning, get you warmed up. So first icebreaker question. If you could learn one shooting skill instantly, think of Neo in the Matrix where they plug them in.
Okay.
And they just download all that knowledge. What would that skill be?
If I could learn it instantly and not have to work on it, probably something like bullseye shooting, because I hate doing that. So if I could have that and not have to work at it, that's how I would do it. Everything else is fun enough that I would love to, I enjoy working at it, but something like bullseye, we'll get that out of the way and use the cheat codes for that.
It's like a dagger in the heart right there.
Why is that? Did you start?
I come from the bullseye world.
Okay. So I got to shoot. If I'm derailing too much, let me know. But nope. I got to shoot the inaugural Trigicon World Championships. That was basically the last big match I shot before I kind of went on the hiatus that I did. And that was an incredible match. They did. It was 12 scored stages, one for every discipline, like major discipline of competitive shooting. And the shooter showed up with eyes and ears, and that was it. Everything else was supplied. They had the guns, they had the ammo, everything. And like I said, they had a stage for each discipline of shooting. And I sucked at the 5-stand. There was no coming back from that. But the thing that I was struggling with the most to prepare for that was the bullseye stuff. I was like, man, I grew up shooting 1911s, and I was like, if I have to do this, I am going to tank so hard. I might as well not shoot the stage, and I think I would actually do better in the standings. So, yeah, if I could, again, scoot that out of the way and not have to ever worry about that sort of thing, I'd be okay.
It is definitely different.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more patience, I think.
A lot more
So,
patience, and again, I can't stand still that long and get my brain and hands to connect long enough to actually break good shots like that. So, uh,
okay, that's fair
yeah,
enough.
that'll be the final answer there.
Okay, not going to call a friend.
No, no chance.
All right. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh man, a superpower. Flight would be pretty cool. Flight would be
Mm-hmm.
flight would be nice. Or just do the whole Wolverine thing and just heal. That would be pretty beneficial for me, I'd say. So between those two things, where he's just
Oh,
kind of indestructible, everything repairs on him, I'd take that in a heartbeat.
wow, that's a new one. Yeah. Hmm. Very interesting. I feel like the flight one's probably going to be the most popular of the answers.
Yeah,
So
is that what you would go with?
initially, yes, and then I went with speed, be as fast as the Flash.
Okay, okay,
And my first superpower would be able to hit any target moving at any speed. So then you combine that with the Flash,
yep. Now all of a sudden everything's
simple.
involved. Yeah.
There's zero challenge.
Okay. I always like the whole complete and total control of time thing. That always seemed like a good idea too.
Mm, yeah.
Because then you could shooting shooting would be also very easy. It doesn't matter how fast you're going if I can pause everything. So
Right. And then unpause it once you've
yep,
shot all the targets, all alphas. Let me
yep.
unpause everything.
Or just put
Done.
things on quarter speed. I can relax
Right.
as much as I want, and I got a 4 second run on. Yeah, that'd be perfect too.
Beat that,
So
Christian Seiler.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Take that.
Yeah, you don't need to be the hippo if you can just do the click remote.
Exactly. All right. So, what is a food you'll never get tired of?
For me, probably sushi, which sounds crazy. I'm in a landlocked state. Again, I'm in Southeast Arizona, so it's always a roll of the dice when I eat sushi anyway. But yeah, if I could, all you can eat sushi is like my favorite thing on the planet. So
It's too bad it's so expensive because that is an
yeah,
awesome
and
choice.
that's why I do all you can eat. At this point, I actually don't really eat sushi unless it is all you can eat because I can't afford it. So, what about you?
I went with steak, but I do love sushi. And I never had, so I was in the Marines and I got stationed in Okinawa.
Okay.
I was there for a year and a half. So I was there for a year. I extended for another year. And I was about halfway through my second year. And I swore I would never eat sushi. And there was this, I had gone in this restaurant called The Ocean. And it's waterlocked. So it's the exact
Yep.
opposite of
Yep.
Arizona.
Relatively safe
And
as far as sushi goes.
yeah, for the most part, unless they want to give you some puffer fish or something. But behind this case was the different shades of water, colored water. And one of them looked like dirty dishwater. And I'm like, I will never have any of this stuff. And that was miso soup.
Ah, yeah. Which is
So,
functionally dirty dishwater, yeah.
yeah. But I ended up trying them one day anyway and got hooked immediately. And I've never been able to look back. So, number one would be steak. Number two, probably sushi.
Fair. Good choices. I was between, yeah, steak is always a close second. So, now do you like cooking? Do you like making your steaks and everything?
I do. There aren't too many places that I like eating out to have a steak. Like I do
Yep.
like Texas Roadhouse. And I've gotten to the point where if I do for some reason, Texas Roadhouse gets it right every time. But
Okay.
typically if I eat out and I order a steak, which is rare, then I always go medium because if they screw it up, it's either going to be medium well or medium rare. And I can do both of those. I do not like well.
Yeah, of course.
So I can't do that. So I always go medium just to give them buffer
Yep.
so they get it right or
Yep.
close enough to right that it's okay. But yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely prefer to cook my own steak.
I'm in the same boat. I usually actually don't I would choose to not go to a steakhouse because most of the time I'm confident I can make my steak the way I like it better. So
100%.
yeah.
All right. If you could have dinner with one person from any period in history other than like a significant other, spouse, whatever, who would it be?
J.R.R. Tolkien. I am a
Really?
Yeah, I am a massive. So this is I've I've got right there are swords and displays. I've got my whole house looks like a Lord of the Rings museum. Um, I'm actually I'm considering doing a doctorate program in literature just so I could do it in Tolkien, like go in and do Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so I would absolutely do J.R.R. Tolkien. He fought in the First World War. He worked on the dictionary. He was one of the members of the original team that wrote the Oxford Dictionary. So very brilliant mind, and then his ability to create such a vast legendarium across all of his different stories, and then tie in um, various different Proto-Germanic and Anglo-Saxon mythologies, and basically give the Western world, specifically like the English and the Americans, uh, a mythos of their own. Because what he had looked at when he was a boy was basically, hey, all these things that we see, all these great stories that we have are Norse or Polish or Slavic or something along those lines, or Russian in nature, or Greek, of course. We really don't have like a true Anglo-Saxon English mythos, which is why he spawned so much of his legendarium. So again, the vast effort that he put in, all the way down to creating languages and 7,000 years worth of history and lore and stuff. Yeah, uh, I would absolutely. That's an easy choice for me. It'd be him and his takes on morality. I mean, uh, yeah, Tolkien.
What do you think he would say about today's world?
I think he'd be vastly disappointed with a lot of what's going on in today's world. We are very far away from a an honorable and a just society that takes care of one another, that fights evil. And I think that that's such an interesting thing. Is the Lord of the Rings is not inherently any sort of political work, but I challenge anybody to read it and not end up with this, and not leave, set the books down and leave with this intrinsic feeling of right and wrong, good versus evil, and just knowing that, hey, I have a duty in making I have a duty to make the world a better place no matter how much I do. I think that his works are able to inspire that effortlessly. He doesn't force some fake morality that we see other authors do. So I think his observations in today's world would be sad. However, I also think that if anybody were to be able to start to compile um, some sort of message to get the world back on track, I think he could do it. So
Hmm. They need to invent time travel.
yeah,
Somebody needs to come up with that.
yeah, yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right. If money were no object, what would you be doing now?
Um, if it were no object whatsoever, I would I would probably be keeping, if it was still right this second. So I've got a whole bunch of basically life changing injuries that have changed everything I ever wanted to do. Um, so if I was still the way I am now, I would actually mostly be keeping up with what I do. So I teach. That's my standard job. I'm actually a professor at a university out here, and that's very nice. I relatively enjoy that. And then the rest of the time um, I spend my free time like used to be doing jujitsu, but shooting, working out, taking my dog for walks, playing video games with my buddies. So if I could just sit back and do all that and never have to worry about anything, I would probably just take all of that to the extreme even more. I'd shoot a whole lot more than I would. I'd be traveling a whole lot more than I do now. Um, but there probably actually wouldn't be that much of a drastic change, to be completely honest. Unless,
Is
of
shoot
course, I could change some health stuff there. But
right. Is shooting and traveling exclusive of each other or are they inclusive?
no, no. So most of the time, like when I was a kid, when I was doing the Three Gun Nation tour, I got to go all over the country, and almost all of my travel was associated with shooting, um, which is very, very cool. And like my dad and I, we are trying to figure out how to get ourselves sponsored isn't the word that I'm looking for, but it's one that comes to mind, to try to get into like the 2026 Shotgun World Shoot. Right. We'd love to be able to go do that and go shoot in Greece, I think is where they're doing it, or Sicily, something like that. We've looked at doing safaris. He and I went out and did some hog hunting stuff in Texas. So like a lot of it is connected. I've done a few trips separate, but going all over the world and shooting would be awesome.
Okay.
But as I'm sure you know, that becomes a very, very expensive trip very quickly as you start involving firearms. So,
well, and it starts at the very beginning of the prep because the guns aren't expensive. I mean, they're not cheap. The ammo's not cheap.
Yep.
The training's not cheap. I mean, it's all, once you add a rifle to something, it's just got exponentially more expensive.
Yep. And not just in money, but in time and effort.
Yes.
And yeah.
Well, and now, I mean, just think about a range. If you want, there are ranges that will allow you to draw from a holster and shoot. There are some that don't, but even the ones that don't, you could still go to an indoor range with a pistol and still get some training in.
Mm-hmm.
But now try doing that with a rifle.
Yep.
Now you can't. I mean, they're
not going to go plink their steel. You're not going to. Yeah.
Nope.
You're kicking everybody out because I shoot competitions, so nobody likes my SJC break on the end. Yeah.
Oh.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not exactly easy. It's not like something like jiu-jitsu where you toss a gi in your bag and you can go do whatever, and all you got to do is find a gym. It's not the same thing.
And roll on a floor.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. The overhead's a lot less there.
Yes. Yeah.
So my mom, she owned a Taekwondo place for, I don't know, I guess 10 years. She was a 3rd or 4th degree black belt.
I've got a black belt in that as well.
Okay. So yeah. And the overhead was, much easier.
Yep.
So
yep.
Not nearly as much equipment or anything else needed.
No. So, and again, it's much easier to do that. You just need some space on the floor. People get upset when you start shooting randomly in houses.
Yeah. I mean, I think they had a bathroom that was big enough that you could change in.
Yep.
And they had a small little closet size office. And the rest of it was just open floor space.
Big open floor. Yeah.
Yeah. With mirrors on the wall. That was it. Now, before we get too far ahead, I do want to go back because you said you had some life-altering injuries, and I saw that you were walking with a cane when you were at the match. So that was kind of shocked me too, because I was like, wait a minute, isn't that the guy who was walking with the cane? How in the world did he do that? So if you don't mind, like what injuries?
So I started doing Taekwondo, and the Taekwondo messed up my meniscus. So I've had 4 knee surgeries, just getting my lateral meniscus in each leg fixed, 2 on each leg. And that was okay. Those weren't too bad. But when I was 16-ish, I actually broke my back. I broke my lower back, and they didn't find it initially. They didn't find the break. So I got told, like, hey, you pulled a muscle. You just need to strengthen your back and your core. So for about 3 years, I literally just held myself together. I did Olympic lifting and CrossFit and jiu-jitsu and all this good stuff to get a really super strong core. I went to college, got into ROTC, and stopped doing those things, and then started ruck marching, and that combination was not good. No. Yeah, so that's when I found out I had actually broken my back, and it needed to get fused, so it got bolted together. And like I said, I had different plans. I was trying to go into ROTC. I wanted to go jump out of airplanes and blow stuff up and, shoot bad guys in the face, all that cool stuff. And that went by the wayward because I ended up getting fused, and that fusion got infected. So I ended up having 3 spine surgeries inside 6 weeks to clean everything out and get the back in one piece. And I just found out about 2 or 3, that was 8 years ago now. I just found out about 2-3 months ago that the fusion's actually broken again. So in addition to the levels above it being compressed and some issues in my neck, because it's my lower back. So in addition to the levels above it going and my neck going, I just found out that the fusion itself was broken again. and it's moving and is becoming unstable. So that, and then last thing, I completely tore an Achilles actually while I was shooting at the start of 2024. I was doing a drill that X-Ray Alpha, Matt Pranka, he's a GM, he's a former unit guy. I was doing one of his drills and took off. Man, I was screaming. I took off on a dead sprint and I stepped wrong, and that Achilles went. And it was so loud for a split second. I was like, somebody just shot behind me. Like, what was that? And then I felt it. And I went, no, that's what it was. Yeah. So, my lower back is pretty much gone. My neck has got some issues as well. So I got a whole bunch of nerve stuff, a whole bunch of orthopedic pain, and then a whole bunch of neurological pain and dysfunction, we'll say. My legs will turn off. So like the main reason I have the cane is my legs just shut off as I walk. So I'll fall. So the cane is there actually as a mobile handrail more than anything, to try to catch myself when I go. So I've got a little bit of weakness, especially now as the back is getting worse, a little bit of weakness that's involved. But again, the things will just shut off, and then the foot will drag and that sort of stuff. So.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Man. I assume the neck is compensatory stuff due to the back.
I've done jujitsu for about 10 years, and
well, that doesn't help.
No. And I've done jujitsu, I did lifting, and I like LARPing, so walk around with night vision and helmets and stuff like that on, and all that again, when you're rolling around and you're having people stack you up and get up on top of you, and putting helmets on and then putting barbells on your back, that's just not a good combination. So, and I'm sure there's some degenerative disc disease, because my dad has got a lot of the same issues. So all that probably just a bad combination.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I assume then that in ROTC, they saw the calcification of the break on an X-ray or something, and they were like, "Oh."
Yeah. So I started having actually really bad hip pain because I got some hip issues as well, but those aren't nearly as influential. I started getting some really bad hip pain, so I tried to get that looked at, and then they said, "Well, it's not actually your hip. You need to go look elsewhere." A lot of it was just radiated pain. So the nice thing was my spine surgeon was actually a Force Recon guy, and I was on the Ranger Challenge team, which is like the big competition team that ROTC has to kind of go more than just being a cadet. So I talked to my spine surgeon, again, Force Recon guy, and he was like, "You're not gonna do what you think you're gonna. You're not gonna make it into USASOC. You're not going to go deploy and be in the mountains and ruck 100 pounds up a mountainside." And then I went back and talked to the folks at the ROTC, and like my Ranger Challenge instructor, he was a 20-year plus Green Beret. And I said, "Hey, this is what I got told." And he said, "Yeah, your back just won't stand up." And my dad came from that world as well. He's a former SF guy. And he said the same thing. He was like, "Look, you'd be the greatest one out there until you were a casualty 2 hours in, and your back's just not going to take it." So, unfortunately, had to leave that and shifted actually into cyber. I had the wherewithal to get some job security, some future security, doing the nerdy computer stuff. So that's what I do now.
Okay. Well, someone who spent 5 years in Marine reconnaissance, hiking 100-pound ruck up a mountain sounds fun, except when you're doing it. When it's over, you're like, "Oh, that was easy." But when you're doing it, there was nothing easy about it.
I imagine.
You're
Yeah.
just
Thank you for your
lying to
service.
yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for your service. And yeah, that was, again, it was obviously a very tough decision, but I had very smart people around me that helped me with it. And every now and then, like I said, it's actually a very binary thing. Like my legs just kind of shut off. So every now and then I get episodes where I'm like, "Man, I'm feeling okay. Like I think I can do this." And then I get home that night and I'm like, "Oh shit, I can't do that." There it goes. I was right. Yeah, I'm not quite functional yet. So,
have you ever had any issues while shooting?
yeah. So like actually at the match. I will say that was one of the bigger reasons I had a lower placement than I wanted to, is I just couldn't move. I just can't move fast enough. So like all of my movement is hesitant, we'll say. because I felt it on 2 or 3 stages at PCSL Nationals. I felt it on 2 or 3 stages. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go, and as soon as I did that, I was getting 85s, 90s on those stages. But everything else, it's hard for me to move. And then actually at this match right here, I shot PCC state champs in September, and I had a really bad fall there. There was a stage where we had to go upstairs at the very end and do a little bit of long range stuff with the PCC, and I didn't trip on the stairs. My leg buckled as I made it to the top one, so I was all the way up. I was running, and then my leg just turned off, and I went poof, and just crashed into the floor. Kept the gun safe, everything landed fine, and was able to keep going. But it was a hard fall, so. It absolutely does make a difference, and hence the cane. I will not shoot without knee pads now because I need to be able to just get down on the ground, kind of stretch and relax in between. So
Now, what is long range for PCC?
they were pushing out. I think the longest range they had was about 225.
Wow.
Yeah, they had a decent little distance in there. It's as a matter of fact. The distances they had were oftentimes at least comparable, if not a little bit more, than this year's PCSL Nats. So I think the longest shot was maybe 225, 250 here in Arizona.
Wow.
So,
yeah, because PCSL Nats was, I think, 160 or 170.
180. I think it was 180 from that very back section on that bridge stage. I think it was about 180 if you did it from the prone section back there, but about 160, 170. So, which again, I came from the 3-gun, like the 3-gun nation world. So I'm used to doing 350, 450. If you go out to Rocky Mountain 3-gun, and that's the one in New Mexico. I mean, there were 720 yard or meter, whatever it was, required targets. So I came from that world where it's like, oh, long range is long range, and not quite as much there. But of course, doing it with a 9mm is a little different. So
yeah, a lot different.
Yeah, 12-inch barrel 9mm with a just an EOTech, which 5.56s, when you zero like a standard AR and you get it close at 50, it's the same zero for the most part. And my dad and I checked this PCC that we shot with going out to that match, and the very first stage of the match was one of the long range stages, and I was holding a full plate high and left because of what happened with the zero. It was dead nuts on at 50, and as soon as we got out to distance, I was a full plate high and left off of everything I was hitting, which was odd. I've never had a rifle actually shift laterally like that before, but that one did, which is a new thing for us. So,
wow, and it was an EOTech?
yeah.
Hmm.
So, just odd ballistics, I guess.
Yeah, that it sounds like something shifted there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
It was consistent the whole time. Like it was, I was zeroed at 50, and then as we got out to that like 200 range, the impacts were now off laterally, not just vertically. So,
was there wind or was that dead calm?
No, it was dead calm. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's some weird external ballistics going on there.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Weird. So at 200 yards, you're having to aim a plate high, huh?
Plate high, a plate left. Yeah. Yeah. For me, about a plate high. Because I'm shooting one of the Terran Tactical TR9s, so it's like a 12-ish, 13-inch-ish barrel, and we just ran factory ammo out of that. So probably pushing about, I think, 1,500 for the velocity.
124s or 115s or
we shot nationals with 115s. I think it was 124s at PCC. I think we shot 124s out of the PCC.
Okay. Which one do you like better?
I'll say 115. That we just shoot. We have all the reloading stuff. I've been so long answer to this. I used to shoot open when I did all the 3-gun stuff, so I'm very much used to getting the load completely dialed in and having it exactly what you want. And I did the 55 and the 77s for the rifle, and then a custom. It was a 125 because I was shooting a 38 Super Comp. I'm used to doing all that, and I just neither one of us had the time anymore, so we went, screw it. Blazer's what we can get. We're shooting 115 or 124 Blazer, and out of our guns, I didn't notice too much of a difference. The 115 felt like it cycled faster, which is what I like. So I'll say 115.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own perception of how your gun and the ammo and everything works together,
Yep.
and what you like. So,
Yep.
uh,
And
okay.
I'm always a preference for fast and flat. I don't mind rear recoil quite as much. I just want it to be, ready to go immediately.
Kind of
So,
like how I am, especially with rifle. I mean,
yep.
I like fast, I like flat. So there's always a sweet spot in there somewhere because you go too fast, you're going to give up accuracy.
Yep.
So there is a threshold limit there. But 55 and 77.
Grain bullets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd have because I used to shoot for JP when I was a junior. I shot for
Okay.
JP for a little while. So I had the CTR-02, the big 18-inch gun. They're classic with that big like tank brake looking thing on the end of it. That classic setup of theirs. So yeah, I was doing the 77 grain for long range stuff, and then the 55 grain inside a bay. And that was the standard, man. I'll pat myself on the back there. Like I was with a rifle, because in those days, again, this is 10, 12 years ago. In those days, most of the guys that were shooting 3-gun had come over from USPSA, and they were pistol shooters primarily. So like I used to shoot with Mike Voigt when he was still alive. Loved Mike Voigt. He was fantastic. But I used to super squad with Mike Voigt and Jerry and Taryn. Like I said, I shot open, so I wasn't with like Danny Horner or Keith Garcia, those guys. But I could hold my own with a rifle when I was a kid because I started doing 3-gun. So I had kind of everything. I built up that skill all at the same time. So I couldn't really do as much with a pistol as they could have naturally. But because I had started doing all of that, I had just as much, if not more, time training towards that competitive rifle aspect. So I was very much comfortable doing the 77 grains out at distance and taking a 5.56 out to 5.6, 700, depending upon the match. And then switching it over and burning down with really, really high pressure ammo in those 55s. There was a point at which we actually dropped down to a 52 grain load, 52 grain bullet. And that thing was pushing out of a 14-inch gun. We were pushing almost 3,000 feet per second. That was so flat. That rifle did not move. It was loud as hell, but that rifle did not move. Yeah, it was not fun to be around, but it was very fun to shoot. That thing was just so.
Well, there's plenty of open pistols I don't like to be around.
Yeah.
So it's no different. Now, all right, here's an opinionated question. 3-gun nation no longer around.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing's really, I don't want to say filled that gap, but I mean, nothing has been able to get to that level of popularity
Right.
that 3-gun seemed to have created. Do you think PCSL or any of these pistol organizations can get there?
So I think PCSL is going to do it in a slightly different way. I think PCSL is kind of the best we have right now, but it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So again, coming from the 3-gun nation side and doing I mean, like I said, I shot open. I had the ridiculous R&R Sega with the 20-round mags and the breaching thing. I came from the gamer world as far as shooting goes, and with that as my primary background coming into PCSL, I don't see that as much. So I think there is a tiny bit of a lack of that super gamer look and feel to PCSL. And I think that will be slightly detrimental to them becoming super popular. That said, PCSL is incredible in that it's far more practical and it's far more approachable than anything else is. right? Everything else, you got to look into this, like USPSA, Three Gun Nation, IDPA, IPSC. Everything else, you're looking at all these crazy rules and these different gear divisions. And oh man, can I run this gun? Can I run that gun? Well, what if I have this holster? PCSL is like, hey, competition, run almost whatever you want. I think competition could be more gamer-y, personally. But competition, run whatever you want. Practical, show up with your duty gear, or go buy a Glock 17 or whatever the hell they're making now, whatever 48, 45, Gen 6, whatever they're on.
Right.
Yeah, I can't track that. But go buy a Glock, go buy a BCM, toss an optic on it, toss an optic on your Glock, which is also awesome, right? Not restricting people from using pistol optics. Toss optics on them, run around with a Safariland ALS, retention rig, like anything. Again, use your duty stuff, use what you can get at your local gun store, and you can go shoot and absolutely be competitive in PCSL. So I think it is going to be a far more sustainable. I think I'll put that as a final answer. I think PCSL will be a far more sustainable and level degree of popularity, because it's going to be much more approachable. It's going to be much more. It's going to stand the test of time a little bit better, is my guess, if that makes sense.
It does. And it kind of goes with what I've been saying. I like the speed with which Max is bringing PCSL along.
Yep.
Wasn't too fast. He didn't just like, okay, I need to do something. Let's do this and throw it out there for the world. I mean, he's each year he makes it a little better, does something a little different, and kind of cascaded upwards.
Yep.
So
And
I like the trajectory.
I think that was a big issue with Three Gun Nation, right? The tour where they had the separate matches was fantastic. And the idea behind doing their pro tour, where it was all out in Oklahoma and, you came out and like they controlled everything, that was a fantastic idea, but that was just such a big jump. People were not happy with the fact that last year, local matches got to run these things. And then the next year it was like, okay, well, now they don't count. Like, why did this shift happen so fast? Why was it such a, overnight thing that's now a day and night difference in this organization? But like you said, Max is going with this. He's constantly reiterating and refining. And it, from what I can tell, it still looks very much the same, but it's refined. It's not this like, oh man, I stopped shooting for a year and now I can't get back into it. It's like, okay, tiny little things change, that even something as simple as his target change, like, okay, cool. That's still the essence of the target. I can still look at the PCSL target and say, yep, that is the K zone or T zone, whatever they call it. Whether it's the full A like this, or just a little T and then actually having a C zone in there. Contrast that with what we saw in Three Gun, where it went from, we used the standard IPSC silhouettes to, nope, we're shooting at little bullseye things. Like, okay, well, unless I have the bullseye things, I can't run the match. Like, again, it just wasn't a sustainable shift. Whereas, like you said, if he's just constantly refining kind of slowly and treating it like a marathon and taking feedback. I mean, Max came over to our squad, and I'm sure he did this with everybody, but he came over and he was talking to us. Like the match director, the guy that runs the entire organization, the entire promotion, was coming up and saying, hey, how's this going? What needs to shift? How's the schedule? How are the stages? How is this looking? He was getting feedback right there. And he was very genuine with taking that feedback, which was nice.
Okay.
So,
yeah. And again, he hasn't like rushed anything, which is what I like, because I think that's an easy thing to do. You have an idea, you've put it together, and you want to thrust it all out there for the world to go at. But the way he's kind of like, even a year ago, just creating the website where you can create a member number and then, but not, it's just a very good paced. I think it's paced right for longevity.
And approaching, starting to work on a classification system, not immediately forcing that down. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
good
slowly.
Keep people invested, but not so much that it just becomes an insurmountable task to try to figure out what's going on as someone tries to enter into the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with the simplicity of the rule book too. It's not, it's nothing difficult to grasp.
Yep. I'm still not a fan of hit factor. Again, coming from Three Gun Nation, I think hit factor's dumb personally, but everything is nice and straightforward. There aren't so many. You don't have to have a PhD in it to figure out what's going on like you do with some of the USPSA rulings, where it's like, why was that? Why is that the case? It's still very straightforward. The divisions make sense. The scoring makes sense. Again, very, very good work. I think it will become the standard. It's just going to take a while. Personally.
And it's interesting that I believe Pavel created a club in the Czech Republic that is PCSL. So
it sounds
I think that will help too, because
there's so much influence, which is odd. Being the American, we're always, we're the shooters, and then we see those guys and they just crush it. Yeah, they're gonna have a lot of influence on that success.
Have you had an opportunity to see him shoot?
Not in person, no. I try to do his ace stages and hate how he does those. I'm like, God, if he's shooting these fast, I don't know how he's doing it.
He's a big dude.
Is he?
Like, he is not a small man. Yeah, he's a big man. And he was at PCSL last year, but I didn't really get a chance to watch him. But this year, I watched a couple of his stages and watched him shoot. That man, I honestly don't know how he gets that
he worked
size moving.
He worked the stage where you had to run in between bays.
He shot the normal. Well,
Did
3
he shoot
day
the normal match? Okay.
He did.
I didn't see him. Okay.
Yeah, that was Josh Cardenas who was running back and forth constantly on 7.
There was a big Czech dude there.
Oh, there was another guy there, but no, he shot the regular match.
Okay.
But I was just like, wow. I was amazed at how well and how fast he moves for just being such a big human being.
Yep.
He's like Josh Freilich size.
Okay.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
So.
Which is terrifying. They're that big. They move around that fast and they're shooting.
Yeah. It's like, what? How in the world? Yeah, it was, okay. We know what AJ Anthony looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Tall and slender. And Pavel was 17 seconds faster in the match.
That's insane.
That is insane. Because he's like 2.5 times the size of AJ.
Yeah.
So
he's got the linebacker build. He's sprinting and that's it. Yeah. Very dangerous over short distances.
Yeah, for sure. And to be able to, it's not just, it's the swiftness, the ability to change direction and move and start and the explositiveness. There's a lot going on there.
Into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shooters are actually coming from a jiu-jitsu and just, I've competed in CrossFit and jiu-jitsu and Taekwondo. I was athletic when I was healthy, and seeing some of these guys that can get out there and, like you said, just turn it on, and all of a sudden they're moving around like a linebacker, like a defensive end, or like fighters or wrestlers, where they can just all of a sudden change directions and sprint and get back to being stable. It's really impressive.
100%. Yeah. There's some big dudes out there moving fast.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Wish I was one of them. One day. One day.
All right. So how long have we even been? So we've already been talking for 43 minutes and we haven't even gotten into how did you get into shooting as a kid?
Yep.
So how did you grow up? It sounds like you grew up around guns with your dad.
Yep. So I grew up around guns, and Dad and I were thinking about becoming hunters, and that's because he didn't really grow up hunting, but we were looking at becoming hunters and doing bird stuff and that sort of thing. And I was actually playing football when I was 10 or 11. I was playing football and I ended up getting hurt, and I always got hurt when I played football. So I still like to shoot, and one day my mom actually mentioned to my dad, she was like, "Hey, why don't you try to get him into something with shooting as opposed to football?" My dad's rule was I always had to do something. I could do anything, but I always had to do something. I couldn't do nothing. So I had to do football, I had to do soccer, I had to do something just to keep me busy when I was a kid. So we found a local match, actually the same one that I'm shooting tomorrow. So kind of full circle. Found a local match. It is an IDPA style. I'm out here in Sierra Vista. It's at the Sierra Vista shooting range, and it's IDPA style. So it's not USPSA gamer style, but they're not officially affiliated, which is nice because they're not. It's very low key. So I was 11. I had a single stack 9 mil Kimber, um, and we went out to the range. And a guy named Bud Fraze, he's still out here. Um, my dad said, "Hey, we're interested in shooting. My kid is safe. I will walk with him the entire time. I'll stay right by him. He'll be safe. Blah 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 blah." And basically, uh, Bud allowed me to start shooting, which he hadn't. He had said no to juniors before, but he allowed me to start shooting. And that first match, I think I took 16th out of 64. I ended up in the top quarter. Yeah, the very first time, and he said, "Okay, something's going on here." So I
You're
kept
cheating
shooting.
somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so I kept shooting that local match, and it's just the first Saturday of every month, and then the last Saturday they do a little workshop type thing, which is supposed to prep you for the next match. Like it focuses on a skill, and that skill is related to a stage that'll show up in the next match, and then you get to shoot the stage. So it's a nice little thing. But I shot that a handful of times, and I was picking stuff up on YouTube, and of course my dad taught me functionally everything I know, but he also didn't know much about the competitive side. We were both relatively new to it. Um, so we were watching YouTube and just kind of testing stuff out like that. And we'd go out into the desert because the nice thing about where I am is we've got a decent bit of open land, and we've got steel and all of our own targets, so we're real responsible with it. So we just go out and set stuff up and shoot, and we kept shooting this local match, and that's when my dad found out about the Army Marksmanship Unit junior camp, the one that's out of Fort Benning. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. So managed to get into that, and I did that twice, I think, two or three, twice. I did it twice. So went out there once when I was 11 or 12, and then again when I was, I think, 13 or 14, um, and shot it with a single stack, I think both times. But that was just an absolutely incredible program while they were running it. I'm not sure if they still do, but when they were running it, when it was at its height, it was just an incredible program. And the nice thing was I ended up interfacing with a lot of those same AMU shooters like Danny Horner and Sergeant Demaculang or DMAC and Tyler Payne and Shane Coley. I think he ended up
Yeah.
shooting for Glock. Um, I got to train under those guys because you'd spend a weekend. It was like 3 or 4 days, so you'd spend a weekend plus training with these AMU dudes, and they would bring you out, and each one of them would focus on a different skill, and you'd show up, and they would give you a case of ammo, and um, you were getting these clinics, these 2 or 3 hour long clinics by different AMU members just all weekend long. So it was a really fantastic development program. And like I said, as I started getting into the 3-gun side, I would begin to see those guys more and more. So I kept correspondence with a lot of them, but started shooting that local match, and then made it out to the AMU unit or AMU camp the first time. After that, I decided that the MGM Ironman 3-gun, the old school one, was the coolest thing ever. So that was my first foray into a real major match. I shot that at 12. I believe I was the youngest person to do it at the time. I shot it. I shot it with a Springfield M1A SOCOM, a Benelli M4, and a single stack 9 mil Kimber. So I shot it the heavy division as a 12-year-old with 308
Goodness.
and a 12 gauge. Yeah, man, that was a whole lot of fun, but that was tough. I'll tell you what, like 2,000 rounds over the weekend. That was tough of 3-gun or of 308 and 12 gauge and nine. So that was a fun match. And after that, I was like, yeah, 3-gun's what I want to do, but we need to get a little bit more refined. So at that point, my dad and I started kind of wargaming what we were going to do. I spent a lot of time shooting single stack, and then as I started doing more and more of the 3-gun, because again, I shifted into that after that MGM Ironman match. So started training up for that, and I shot one more match actually out at Fort Benning, the Fort Benning 3-gun. That one was incredible because they had privates reset everything. There was no, yeah, there was no
Yeah.
no resetting of the stage by the shooters. It
Yeah.
was awesome.
They were voluntold.
Yes. Oh
We
man,
know
it
what
was
you're doing
incredible.
this weekend, Private.
Yep, it was incredible. You'd finish shooting, and you just see a sea of OCP. Yeah, the old green digital stuff just go out there, or UCP, whatever it is, and they would reset everything. There were guys that were doing the shoot house with staplers. That was a lot of fun to see that in between. They were so well run at that match that we actually had to wait to shoot stages. Like we would get there and nobody else would be there, and they're like, no, you can't start. You'd be too far ahead of schedule. Like that's how well run that match was. It was amazing. But shot that as a shot it in TAC optics, and after that, I can't load shotguns to save my life. So after that, we're like, all right, we'll just shoot open. So as soon as I got back from that match, I shifted into open, and my dad's idea was, if you can drive an Indy car, getting in a Prius is going to be easy. Everything's going to be slow after that. So shifted and started shooting open, and I think I went to at that point I just started shooting the tour as much as I could. I did a few pistol matches. I shot Area 2 once, and that was actually only to get qualified in or classified in USPSA so I could go shoot nationals, MultiGun nationals. And yeah, from there I was shooting the tour in open. So like I said, I would super squad with Jerry and Taryn Butler and Mike Voigt and guys like that, which was just awesome. The wealth of knowledge that I got to get from those guys was just incredible. I ended up taking second in the tour my first year doing it, and then I won the tour for the junior and the amateur the next 2 years, I think. I got picked up by JP in that time and shot for JP for a couple years and won USPSA MultiGun Nationals for junior. I think once or twice, and went from there. And then, like I said, I competed in the tour for a few years, and I was doing it while I was in high school. But what ended up happening was after I think my third or fourth nationals, I just started getting a little jaded with shooting. Again, it's logistically expensive. It took a whole lot of time, money, and effort. I was in high school, so it'd be like a week's worth of school missed, and you can imagine that not every teacher liked hearing, "Oh, well, why are you going to be gone?" Well, I'm going to go shoot. Not everybody liked that. So there was that aspect, and then there were also at the time there was a little bit of clickiness, like clicks involved in shooting, and it was like I don't really like I don't really like being the kid and not being in the know. But if I'm not part of this clique, it wasn't So some of it
Nothing has
got odd.
changed.
Yeah. Fortunately, I didn't get too much of that at PCSL Nats. Like I didn't. Obviously, nobody knows who I am anymore, so it's not like I'm involved in any of that. But the nice thing was that I didn't get that exact same feel like it used to be. But the click stuff got annoying, and then I had started doing jujitsu in that time, so I also got tired of losing. I'll toot my horn here again. I've lost to Danny Horner and Jerry Michalik both by 1/100th of a second. And the Jerry Michalik one, he actually asked me how I shot a stage. It was at Midwest. It was at CMMG. It was a Midwest 3-gun out in Missouri. He actually asked me how I had shot the stage because everybody else was doing it in like 42 or 45 seconds, and I shot it in 33. I shot it in 33:43. I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going this way, not this way where everybody else is. And he shot it in 33:42. And I was like, damn it. Like, this is ridiculous.
Wow.
I lost by 1/100th of a second on a 30-second stage. Like, this is, so it was a whole lot of fun. It was very cool. But I ended up just getting into the jiu-jitsu stuff. And I was like, well, there's no way to lose by 100th of a second. I either win or I lose. It's not up to the timer. So between like the click stuff, the time and money and effort, and then wanting to do the jujitsu thing, I ended up I had stopped doing shooting competitions, but I think you can actually, if you look up my name in shooting, I think there is an archived page for the JP shooting team that still shows up with everything I had done. Um, so spent a lot of time doing it and really enjoyed it. And like I said, the last big match that I shot successfully was that inaugural Trigicon World Championships. I don't know if they do that anymore. They should though. That was an incredible match. Um, Absolutely incredible match. So I shot. I got to go out to West Virginia and Missouri and Texas and Nevada and New Mexico, Idaho, Georgia, of course. Yeah, I got to go all over the country and shoot as a three gunner. They're not doing it anymore.
It was only 2 years, 14 and 15.
Yep, I shot the 14 match.
Okay.
I took eighth in that. So
Well, Daniel Horner won in
won it.
2014 and Jerry in 2015.
Okay, yeah. Danny beat me. I took second on the rifle stage because he went out and beat me by again within a 20th of a second on that one. But yeah, that was an incredible match. I hope somebody brings that match style back. It was so cool. Again, you show up and it was, hey, here's the NRA F class stage, or here's the 3-gun stage, here's the USPSA stage. Just here's the guns, you go shoot.
Yeah, it said 12 different shooting sports.
Yep.
Wow, with all equipment provided.
Yep. Yeah,
and it was practically in my backyard. Peacemaker is just like 2 hours away from me.
Yep. Yeah, Peacemaker's a really nice range. I got to go out there for
it's for sale if you've got some, you know.
I'll go halvesies. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll go halvesies on it. Yeah. All halvesies right. As I put in my measly $20, right?
I know some Somalis. We might be able to get some money. I made him spit up.
Peacemaker daycare. There we go.
Oh, there. Boom. Right there. Yeah. I mean, it's in DC's backyard. Why not?
Perfect. They would never notice. They wouldn't.
Nope.
Yep. And we'll get, we'll buy some really nice Mercedes and say that we're doing the medical transport. Sue. Yep.
Well, I still am a paramedic. So there we go. We got it. We got everything covered.
Yeah, we're good. I get a teaching background. So
right.
Easy.
You got the brains.
Well, I didn't say that. Those who can't do.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so that's basically what ended up happening. I got myself boil it all down. I started at a really small local match as a junior, and then from there it just kind of took off. I got to a point where I was really good and very, very much competitive. I ended up finishing 21st in competition this at PCSL Nats, and that is the first time I think I've been out of the top 10 or 15. Ooh, that one hurt. But I got to be really good. I got to meet some incredible people and shoot some really fun matches. But then I just kind of, I lost the spark for it. Like I said, those few things that ended up happening, I didn't like it quite as much. And I took that same competitive mindset and turned it into, focused on jiu-jitsu for a few years there. And got to a respectable jiu-jitsu record too. But now that I can't do that quite as much, coming back to shooting. So I expect to be, if everything goes well, I expect to be kind of full on in the shooting world again.
So how long was your break? How long were you on a break from shooting?
From any serious matches, 7, 8 years.
Okay.
Well, hang on. Does that math work out? Last year was 2025, 9 years.
Okay.
The actual last match that I shot was 2016 USPSA MultiGun Nationals, and that was a cursed match. So I'm not too big into the whole listen to the universe. I'm the type of person that's like, no, make stuff work. You put your mind to it and go through it. I should have listened to the universe on this one. I was getting ready to go shoot this match, and I'd actually gotten picked up by Daniel Defense at the Trigicon match. They sponsored me, and they put together a nice 14-inch gun. That's what I shot. Actually, it's that gun that's up in the picture. So I was getting set up to go shoot MultiGun Nationals, and my 14.5-inch upper died because I blew up the gas block. That was like the Sunday before we left. Yep. I was
Okay,
using
hold on.
I was using an adjustable gas block, an old Cyrac, and it cracked, which had actually happened at a Nationals before too. So I don't use those gas blocks anymore.
Okay.
So blew out the gas block, so that rifle was gone, and it was a pin and welded gun. So I was not going to go change it in 2 days before we left. So slapped on a different upper and tried to get everything set up, and that one was not really liking the ammo that we had. It was functional, but barely, because like I said, it was still loading at that point. A week before that, excuse me, week before that, my open gun, my pistol, had died, and I actually have a pretty cool story with that. By the way, I was shooting a Predator tactical Banshee. Is Matt Burkett? He was out of Phoenix here. Is an STI. Is your run of the mill
Okay.
STI 38 Super. I put about over the course of that thing's life, I put about 80,000 rounds through it. I cracked the frame, like I shot it so much I cracked the frame, and the sear was worn down where it had, I think, 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch of contact. So, yeah, it was not safe. So we put that away,
Wow.
and I was trying to get to. I was just running a 6-inch 9 mil 2011, no optics, no brakes or anything, and I was like, it's not going to be great, but whatever. We're going to the match. So pistols died on me, rifle has died on me prior to getting out to the match. Find some backups for those two, make it out to the match, and the first stage I shoot, my shotgun literally rattles itself apart. Yeah, I lost my magwell because it's an R&R Sega, so he's got all the Robert Rand goes through and does all the modifications on it. The magwell comes off, not the ejection port, the charging handle flies out of the bolt as I'm shooting the stage. The thing literally just falls apart on the first stage that I used that shotgun. And of course, that was the second stage of the day. And the stage before that, I had a malfunction with the rifle. And it's like, okay, I'm tapping out. I am not supposed to shoot. I've had 4 guns die now. I'm tapping out. I'm not going to do this. We're not going to force this. And I had actually, at that time, there was a guy named, he called himself Nubs. I don't remember his name, but he's a shooter that actually doesn't have hands. And he was super nice. He was like, hey, man, yeah, that was tough. Seeing him go through and smoke my stages was like, okay, what am I doing here? Incredible guy. I think he's the no-handed shooter now is his like social media. Incredible guy, super nice. He's like, hey dude, take my shotgun. Like you just have to get around this and you can shoot it. But that was kind of the last, like, you know what, this is just, I'm not going to force a bad situation. 4 guns going down, one of them being completely unrecoverable. I'm just not going to shoot this anymore. So that was actually on my 18th birthday. Worked out, spent that in Vegas with my dad. But that was the last major match that I had shot, was 2016. And then came back this year and shot PCC state champs, which is a 1-day match, which was nice but tiring. And then PCSL Nats.
So interesting side note, no-handed shooter teaches classes.
Does he?
He does. Private
Good.
classes and events. Yep.
He is incredible. Now, I say this with all respect. I don't know how he's going to teach you how to do the grip, because I don't know if you can see his gear. He builds these like custom epoxy loops. So he's got like a nub for his right hand, and what he does, I've got to clear. He hooks his hand into a nub on this side of the gun and then is using like a pinky to pull the trigger. So he's like hooked into this loop on the gun like this, and that's how he shoots his pistol. And then obviously with his shotguns and rifles, he just hooks in, and he's got another loop that he gets in on his handguard and then just goes like this, like he's pulling his trigger like this. He's incredible. And his mags all have these big loops around them that he like hooks into and goes. Just incredible human being, super nice guy, ungodly fast. Especially like he's fast in a vacuum. He would be fast with hands, and he's that good without. It's like, okay, this is that guy's incredible.
But yeah, I mean, maybe he would be as faster or faster with hands, but I feel like sometimes though when you have a disadvantage and you find something you're good at or you're very interested in, the drive is
Mm-hmm.
just that much more to get good at
Yeah,
something. Whereas you and I have hands, so maybe we're not as driven to get.
we don't have to overcome the same stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guarantee you he would be top 10 everywhere because he was competitive again without hands. Like with as many disadvantages as you could imagine, and he was doing this in the open. Like he was
Wow.
keeping comparable times against like Jerry Michalik and Taryn Butler and like just incredible. And again, incredibly nice dude. Like I said, he was like, dude, shoot my shotgun, take this, you can make it through the match. Just completely nice, just fantastic human. But that was the last match. I decided I wasn't going to force a bad situation. It was too many things down. And again, the other thing that kind of told me that was the right choice is I wasn't bummed about it. I was like,
Mm.
whatever. Dad and we had driven up to Vegas. It's not that far from where we are. So I was like, all right, we'll go hit the strip. I got an uncle that lives there. I'll see my uncle and then we'll head home. And it was like, yeah, I'm fine with it. So that was like, yeah, it's probably time to call it. But
Right.
now I'm all back into it. I'm thinking about shooting all the time. I I can't wait to get back into it. The holiday break has been nice, but this year I have my sights set on GM for single stack and PCC and USPSA. Um, so
All right, I'm
that
going to come
drive
back
is
to
there.
that.
Okay.
I'm going to come back to that. Now, so what age were you when you stepped away? Were you about
18.
fifth? Oh,
It
you were
I was
18 when you
shooting.
stepped
Yeah.
away.
It was over my 18th birthday. That match was over my 18th birthday. That nationals.
How long had you been doing either taekwondo or jujitsu or whatever it was you were doing at the time?
Taekwondo, I had done for like 5 or 6 years, and jujitsu I had been doing for 3 years.
Okay. So I assume you continued with those.
Yes, yeah. So the big thing I did from that point was I shifted to competing in jujitsu. I had been
Mm.
doing shooting and jujitsu a little bit of overlap, but I shifted and did a few more competitions in jujitsu. Um, but I had also left to college, so that was the other thing is I left my hometown and I went to college uh, up in Tucson at the University of Arizona. So and I lived in the dorm, so I couldn't keep guns with me or anything like that. So just kind of all those things combined, I was like, all right, I like jujitsu more. Excuse me, sorry. I like jujitsu more. I've got a bigger drive to compete in jujitsu. I've got a bigger drive to improve in jujitsu, and I was doing well. I had 24 matches before I finally lost one, and even that was just by points. I think my current record is 28-2. I think. So not terrible. In jiu-jitsu, 28 wins, 2 losses. So I was really getting into it. I was doing well. That's what I liked. And then, like I said, I went to college. I got into ROTC, and then all that from there is when I found out about the back. And then that was just like a big life derailment in general.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Couple surgeries in a year, and then just kind of going back and forth and finding anything to do at that point. So
Were there was there a BJJ club at Arizona or a taekwondo club or whatever you were?
yes. At the university.
Yeah, with university.
Not really. There was
No.
a
Okay.
yeah. So there was a small club. It wasn't nearly as big as it is now. Jiu-jitsu has really
Mm.
exploded in the last few years. Like Gordon Ryan and the New Wave team, and like guys like Big Dan Montessoyu, who's actually a close friend of mine. And he actually he taught. giant dude. He's a world champion. In the last 3 months, he's taught Christian Craighead and Kyle Rittenhouse. So those worlds are also starting to overlap a little bit.
How weird is that? Those are
Yeah,
opposite ends of the spectrum right there.
yeah. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, there's a lot of overlap in jiu-jitsu and shooting. But those dudes have really just made jiu-jitsu just take off and become very much mainstream. And it was not the case in 2016. It was getting big, but there wasn't nearly as much into it. There also just weren't as many people doing it. So even if there was the interest, there wasn't as much of the kind of the human infrastructure to teach. So there wasn't really anything to do at the university.
Mm.
So
Well, let's stay on this track for just a moment.
Mhm.
I'm trying to. Do you still follow BJJ at all?
Yeah, it's a little. I haven't been able to do it because of my injuries, so it's a little
Right.
bittersweet to stay up on it as much as I used to. But yeah, I do.
So who, Mike? I can't think. I want it. It's Mikey Metamucci,
Musamechi.
Musamechi. There you go.
Yep.
Or Gordon Ryan. Who do you
Yep.
think is the best pound for pound?
Pound for pound would be a hard one. In Nogi, I would say Gordon. Um, in gi, it's absolutely Mikey. So Mikey is, I think, the only American to win multiple gi. So that's with the pajamas.
Right.
Um, yeah, those pajamas, the
Did
cardboard
we just
pajamas.
go back to the Vietnam War or something? What?
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
It's probably not politically correct, but I don't care.
it doesn't bother me. So I think Mikey and a gi, as far as Americans go, but the problem is as soon as you start looking at the gi world, there's a whole bunch of different things. But I would say Gordon at the height of his career. Now
Okay.
Mikey is done because Gordon is very much not healthy. Now
Right.
Mikey is maybe starting to inch forward, maybe, but Mikey also doesn't have the accolades in things like ADCC, whereas Gordon does. Again, Mikey has not done as much in the no-gi world as Gordon has. Nobody has. So and like Gordon and that team, I'm actually again I'm close friends with Dan Montessoyu, who's one of his teammates. And I've met Nicholas Marigali and Giancarlo Bedoni. All those guys are teammates. And John Danaher, I very much respect him.
Mm.
I'm acquaintances, we'll say. I've had a couple conversations with him. He's a very nice guy, very brilliant guy. And Gordon is actually the only one in all of that team that I haven't met. I ended up on his Instagram story, and I still haven't met Gordon, which is a little annoying. But yeah, I'd say for Nogi, it's Gordon Ryan.
Okay. How do guys who do BJJ that intensely at that level, how do they keep from getting injured? I mean, I've not personally done BJJ,
Mm-hmm.
but the people that I've talked to that have done it, I mean, they all seem to have gotten injured at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So interestingly, with BJJ, it's actually it's a bit of an oxymoron or a paradox. You would think that you would just be broken all the time. The entire point behind jujitsu is unless I'm strangling you and trying to put you unconscious, I'm trying to break your joints. I'm
Manipulate
trying to
joints. Yep.
yeah, I'm trying to hyperextend things. I'm trying to over rotate things, etc., and break things. But and this is where that like weird paradox, oxymoron, counterintuitive thing comes in. That is the entire goal, and the goal is to be able to do that with such precision and control that you actually don't get hurt from doing it. It's usually the freak accidents. You and I are rolling around and somebody else bumps into us by accident, and they bump into me as I'm putting my hand back like this, and now all of a sudden my arm breaks, or we trip and fall on each other, or somebody else trips and falls. More often than not, it is a freak accident. Like even in my experience, and again, I've got a black belt in it. I've done it for about 10 years. Um, only of the things that broke, like of the injuries that I got, only one or two of them were from me trying to do something. And I don't think any of them were from somebody else doing it to me. Like, I don't think I've ever actually been injured. Like, I've never had an arm break or something like that. So the, that is kind of the crux of jujitsu is it's counterintuitive. You would think you're broken all the time, but the goal is to not break them because I get to a point and then stop. Right. So there's still a degree
Mm.
of control. Now, those dudes that are doing it at the top level, they're as far as the attacks and defenses go, their attack and defense is so good, and they know everything that's happening that they usually don't get caught in that much exposure. The next thing is, by and large, you can say like these guys know when they're going to break, and they will typically tap out beforehand. And a lot of them will just know like, hey, you caught me. Like it's basically like if you think about playing chess, it's like, yeah, if I see that you're getting in check or you're going to go past and even hit checkmate, I'm not going to try to fight my way out. Like I see it coming. Okay, you got it. So a lot of that is stopped, but that's not everything. They still will get hurt from that point. And that's where you start looking into things like, there's a big overlap with the whole, Joe Rogan types and jujitsu, things like stem cells and peptides,
Right.
peptides, all those sorts of things, very heavily used. And like I've used both of those with
And
pretty good
that's new
success.
too.
That is new tech. Yeah, that's absolutely new
Yeah.
tech. Depending upon the injury, those are miracles. I mean, so like I have experience using all of those because again, I am broken. I'm trying to get myself fixed. Um, I've done stem cells a handful of times. I still use peptides, healing peptides, and some of those things are just. One of them is nicknamed the Wolverine stack. If you take the right combination of one of them is called BPC 157, and the other one's TB5 or TB 400 or TB 500, whichever formulation you get, you will just like overnight almost. You'll have a tear that would normally be surgically fixed, and as long as it's not completely disconnected, you can run these peptides and be up and running within just a few weeks. So
Damn.
that there's a ton of usage of that stuff, of the stem cells, the peptides, that is coming into the world as well. So that keeps these guys working and kind of extends their longevity a little bit. So that's also the last point to that is we are getting away from doing it like cavemen. Like it's becoming popular enough that people are starting to put some. We're starting to get a fraction of like the sports science that goes into football and baseball and that sort of.
Right.
That's starting to bleed over and show up in jujitsu. We're starting to look at things like jujitsu and MMA as sports, not like cage fighting anymore, but as sports. And now that means that sports science applies there, and you get strength and conditioning coaches, you get nutritionists, you get dietitians, you get orthopedic surgeons, you get trainers that are going to bulletproof people and kind of do the prehab, is what people call it now, that sort of thing. So that's a way that people keep themselves moving.
Well, and what the UFC created their
The Performance Institute.
performance center
Yep.
in Las Vegas. I
Yep.
mean,
Fantastic. I got to drive by it coming back from Nationals, actually. That place is incredible. I'd love to get in there. But yeah, they do. And they don't, to my knowledge, I have no idea, but they probably don't do stem cells. But they have hookups with people like the TPI stem cells. They're a sponsor of the UFC and they're down in Tijuana. I go through Ways to Well, which is like what Joe Rogan talks about out in Austin. And
okay,
it was actually my buddy Big Dan that got me um, in with them. So
okay. Now I've heard like I've had knee issues like yourself.
mhm.
My practical shooting career is over for all intents and purposes because of
Sorry to hear
an
that.
issue with a knee. It's all good, but I have been seeing recently that I don't remember if it was South Korea or Germany. Somebody created an injectable that will allow your knee to regrow. Um, oh, why can't I think of the?
The meniscus, the
Yeah, yeah, the
yeah,
meniscus.
yep,
So, and actually, so to prevent anybody from having to undergo a knee
yep,
replacement, which is what
yep.
I've had.
Oh,
So,
okay,
yeah, but the surgery went great. It was the
good.
after surgery stuff that didn't go well. That went bad.
I would
So,
I would look into peptides if I were you. And for anybody listening, the nice thing about peptides, you got to be willing to give yourself shots. But they're just insulin needles. They're really small, the sub Q needles. They can become expensive. It's not outlandish to have a month's supply be about $200 to $400, depending upon what you're getting and where. Um, But I have a buddy. He actually, my buddy Phil. He just, I'll shout him out. He just won not only gi but no gi world championships this year at purple belt level.
So he's
So
okay.
yeah, he's okay. Yeah. He cleaned house at purple belt is the short answer. Um, he was borderline surgical. Like I think he had a damn near complete tear of his MCL on one of his legs, and he called and asked about the same thing. And I was like, "Yeah, man, take these." And he went with the BPC 157 and the TB 500. And the last time I talked to him, he said he's almost back to normal. So you can inject this stuff and get it into the site, and it will, they're designed, the peptides are really cool, and they're very, very safe because all they are markers inside your body. Your body naturally makes them anyway. Yeah, so your body naturally makes them anyway. So when they get into your system, their whole job is to tell your body, hey, we need to do more of this thing. Like we need to send repairing, reparative cells. We need to create more of these cells. We need to kickstart this process. The peptides are the messengers that do that. They help a little bit as well, but they're not just like stem cells. Stem cells, they go in and you're actually giving cells that can become stuff. The peptides say, hey, restart this process, put it into overdrive. And at the end of the day, if they don't get used, they just get broken down into different amino acids and just get reabsorbed. They're not exogenous hormones. They're not stem cells. They're kind of this in between where, again, all they do is they come in and they tell your body to work on stuff, and it promotes your own healing factors, but in overdrive. And again, more often than not, people talk about a complete turnaround without ever having to do surgery. You get on the right regimen, you inject it at the injury site or right next to it, and you'll get back up and running very quickly with a very high degree of success and longevity. You know, it's not like a steroid shot where it's like, okay, we'll take some inflammation out for a little while and then it's going to hurt in 6 months or 3 months, whatever. They are actually rebuilding things.
Do you follow the UFC?
I do religiously. That's like the only thing I watch
You
aside from
talked
jiu-jitsu.
about you talked about freak accidents, and I thought of the Joshua Van Alexander Pantoja
Yep.
fight.
Yep. Catching himself. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Dumb. That sucks.
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
That was going to be such a good fight. And obviously, I don't want to say anything. I mean, he actually didn't even catch himself poorly. Most of the time,
No.
kind of day one grappling is like, hey, if you start going, don't try to catch yourself because that can happen. And
Right.
he didn't do it all that bad. Like he didn't lock his arm out. You know, he went. I absolutely would have done the same thing or dumber. And he had his arm popped out. That sucks. I was not all that impressed with Van. It left a bad taste in my mouth to see him run around and celebrate like he did. So I'm excited to see the rematch that's hopefully coming soon.
Well, I think he was a little overwhelmed with the whole
Yeah.
situation, and I mean, look, Pantoja came out looking to try to kill him in
On a
the first 30
warpath, yeah.
seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So,
mean, at the end of the day, Joshua Van walked into that octagon without a belt. He initiated a takedown and then he left with the belt. So it's like, yeah, you can absolutely the nerdy martial artist where we're bowing and doing the honor and all that, where it's like, you want to have a good clean fight. That part of me, and just the part that wanted to see that fight go, last longer to
yeah.
see that barn burner it would have been. That's the part that's like, I don't like that much. But yeah, again, hopefully he gets back into it. And I would be completely personal opinion, but I would bet money that they are pumping him full of peptides, at least, if not also stem cells, to get that elbow fixed.
Piotr Jan and Merab.
Incredible.
What a clinic. I
Piotr
was
is
like,
a Terminator.
there's no way, because look, even after his first fight with Merab, he did not look like the same guy
No.
for the next 2 to 3 fights or
No.
1 to 2 fights after. I'm like, this guy had already reached the peak. I'm like, he's on the way down. He's not looking good. And then he starts winning a few, and I'm like, okay, he's looking better. But I was like, Merab's just going to do what Merab does. He's going to take him down. He's going to control the fight. He's going to win. And then Peter did what he did, and I was like, how? I haven't seen a performance like that since I can see his face, but I can't think of the fight at 135. shoot, there was a changing of the guard about 10 years ago.
Cody Garbrandt getting it from Dominic Cruz.
Before that, actually,
Cruz
it
getting it
was
from Dillashaw.
Dillashaw taking it from the Brazilian.
Brandao. Yep.
Yeah. That was the last time I really saw a clinic put on where I was
Barao.
shocked.
Henan Barao.
Yeah, Henan Barao. That was the last time I really saw a clinic by someone coming in and taking somebody's belt like that, where you didn't. Henan Barao had been unbeaten, and
Yep.
oh my God, I don't know
If
how long it had
Dillashaw
been.
wasn't there, Barao
No,
would have retired, champ, is what most people say.
yeah. So it's like, whoa. But then to see what Piotr did, I was shocked, but I was so excited.
Yeah, that was. I mean, even in their first fight of the people that Merab beat, Piotr still did well. He just never had an opportunity to get things off. I mean, he defended 40 takedowns,
Right.
and yeah, he was completely controlled for the entire fight. But he still did well. He wasn't just he wasn't beat up too much. But this last one, Piotr is a Terminator, like the old the that scene from one of the Avengers or whatever it was, where Iron Man talks to the suit and he says, "Analyze his fight pattern and tell me what to do." Like that is what's in the back of Piotr Jan's head, where he's like, "All right, I'm going to let this first round go, and I'm just going to sit here and watch for the first round and a half, whatever." And by the time he starts going, he just downloaded their movesets. He knows what's coming and he knows how to counter it perfectly. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. Like you said, a clinic, incredible. I think Piotr is one of the best we'll see. Like in this generation, in this era, I think Piotr is one of the best we'll see.
I think there's going to be a lot of fighters who study that fight and learn from Piotr, and for these guys who are takedown machines and able to control fights the way they do, I think people are going to start trying to emulate what. I mean, you still have to execute. That's the problem. And in that fight, Jan executed perfectly.
Yeah, and we saw what happened. So you look at like the JDM versus Islam fight, right? JDM just completely crushed and shut down Bilal Muhammad. But when Islam got in there, like you said, like you still have to execute. JDM was working with Craig Jones, a jiu-jitsu guy, and Craig has been the dude that's been trying to beat the Daggy strategies here, and so far he's done okay. Most people talk about Volk having won against Islam, which I don't agree with, but he certainly did well against Islam in that first fight. So Craig Jones was there and he was trying to get JDM all set up for that Islam fight. And just like you said, he didn't execute. Wasn't the same thing. We saw the Daggies, we saw Islam counter that octopus guard that Craig is trying to work, trying to work around from that half guard and use it to counter the wrestling. And JDM historically is very good at countering wrestling. He's got this high shell guard, but he uses it in a very smart way where he drops his level and he's able to actually use that shell guard as a frame against wrestlers, which is historically not what happens. Usually that high shell is just asking to get taken down. But yeah, they still have to execute. We're going to see, I think Merab's going to get a rematch. And that'll be a terribly, terribly interesting fight. My eyes will be glued to that screen. The third one, for all the marbles, best out of three, that is going to be an insane fight.
Yeah, I mean, and the first one was completely dominated by Merab.
Yep.
The second one completely dominated by Piotr. So now it's like rubber match time. What is going to happen?
Yeah, that's going to be a must see.
You think Ankalaev wants a rematch with Pereira?
I think he says he wants one.
I don't think he wants one.
I don't think he actually wants one. So
I don't either.
He's like the only Daggy, I guess not the only one anymore, but he was like the only one that doesn't wrestle. And I am a huge Alex Pereira fan. I came from a Brazilian school, so like my professor, Andre Quiles, out here, he's a shoot-a-box. I'm actually out of the shoot-a-box school. So like the Anderson Silva guys.
Okay, yeah.
Wanderlei Silva, my professor grew up training with those guys. He was one generation behind them. He was training when they were getting into Pride. So those dudes, like that's kind of the background that my school comes from, the lineage. So I'm here to support the Brazilians as much as I can, and I'm a giant Alex fan. I think Jan Blachowicz, my fellow Witcher fan, I think Jan Blachowicz actually beat Alex. I think that one was a rigged one to say, hey, let's get Alex to the challenge or to the championship. Um, Ankh had the solution. It was like, all right, let's go wrestle. Let's do anything but strike with Alex Pereira. And when Alex lost that first time, he came out and he's like, yeah, I was sick. I wasn't doing well, blah, 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 blah. And you got to take that with a grain of salt. Like, are they just saying it?
Mm-hmm.
They're making excuses. Man, he came out in this last fight and it's like, yeah, Alex was sick. He was not doing well in
Yeah.
the first fight because he just he bulldozed him. And it's like, yep,
Yeah, he
he's
did.
really not feeling good. That was
Yeah, he did.
that first fight was a fluke.
You could see Ankalaev like, what the hell am I in the ring
Yeah,
with?
that was
What the hell is this?
terrifying beast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
if they do that rematch, I don't think it goes any differently because I don't think Ankalaev has the wrestling to beat Alex. Personally,
Mm.
I don't think he does. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he has enough of that Dagestani style to actually go in and beat Alex. I don't think anybody does in the light heavyweight division right now. So,
I'm not a fan of seeing Alex move up to heavyweight.
no, I think Aspinall beats him. I'm also a huge Aspinall fan. I think Aspinall beats him.
I do too.
I think he's smart enough to just get him to the ground.
I'm an okay Aspinall fan. It's okay. I mean, look, I've been watching UFC since UFC 2.
Okay.
So, I saw when John Jones came up as a nobody and obliterated people. And I do believe, having watched since UFC 2, he is the GOAT,
I would
all-time GOAT for UFC.
It's
Nobody's ever
between him or
beaten him.
DJ. It's between him or DJ. The only thing
Okay.
I will put an asterisk against Jones is there were fights that were questionable, right? The Gustafsson fight, the Reyes fight. I don't think Santos was close to beating him, but I do think that was not a good showing for Jones. The Thiago Santos fight,
Right.
where he's on no legs and still had a few moments in there. There were some times where Jones was questionable.
Agree.
And DJ was just insane. But yes, I would by and large agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I am a heavyweight fan. I think Aspinall beats Pereira just because I think Aspinall is a true heavyweight, even though Alex is big and he walks around, 230, 240, but he's still, it's not the same. Aspinall walks around 260, or bigger.
Yeah,
that's a big dude.
Yeah, even from my experience. So when I'm in shape, I fight at about 220 pounds. And because of some injuries and just being lazy, I'm closer to 240 right now. And that's that's a really funny thing for me to watch is like, holy crap. And I'm down a couple pounds. 2-3 months ago, I was about 250, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, I weigh the same as Aspinall. It's like, we are not the same person. We are not the same person. Like, I may be 255 right now. I am not the same thing as him. And like you're saying, like he's walking around 260 and dropping down to 250, and he's got abs when he does it. He's huge.
Right. Yeah, he's just a big dude.
Yeah, and it's like, again, you're getting guys that are not cutting versus and making it 240. They walk around 240, 250 versus guys that are cutting to get down to 240, 250. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
that is a different beast. That is a very different feeling when you're fighting somebody that big. And I can talk about that from experience. When you're fighting guys that much bigger, that is a tough go of it.
Yeah, especially at that size,
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going like 150 to 180. That's one thing. But my last fight at brown belt, I was 225, 230, and both of the guys that I fought were 285. And it's like this, yeah, because I'm just above. I'm in the super heavyweight or ultra heavyweight. So that sucks. Like there's no two ways around it. That's a hard sell, and it does not. You don't get to do the same thing. Like you don't get to move the same way. You don't get to feel the same way. So
no, and I mean, if you go down the list of names in the heavyweight division, I would stop at number 8 at Derek Lewis and say, good luck trying to move a human being that big who has to cut to get to 265.
Yeah. they're so thick and they're
And he looks
strong.
like his punches are in slow motion
Yep.
and he knocks people unconscious.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just a whole other thing. Yeah.
Now, again, um, are there wrestlers to, because I will say if it's a striking match, I I think if they are going to stand with Pereira and not try to get him to the ground and not try to grapple him in any way, shape, or form, Pereira absolutely has chances. He hits hard enough, and he's tall enough and fast enough to try to get out of the way, and he's going to be in better shape than these guys. But as soon as they start doing MMA and they start laying on him and they get him to the ground and they get him up against the fence, yeah, he's going to be in a completely different world. But if they try to do the same dumb thing of like, oh, he's a how many time glory world champion kickboxing? He's a how many
Yeah.
time? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go strike with him. If that happens, that's a different story. But yeah, as soon as he goes up and he gets somebody that's going to just bring some fight IQ and do an MMA fight, not a striking fight, yeah, that's a bad choice.
Well, and I think too, I'm trying to think of his training partner's name, who was at one time the light heavyweight champ,
Glover,
Glover
Glover,
Teixeira. Yeah, I mean they work together all the time, and
yep,
nobody's challenged his wrestling recently.
no.
I wonder how much better it's gotten.
I'm sure it's
Because
very good. I'm sure
yeah,
it's very good now. And that's the interesting thing with this is you don't have to become a wrestler. You just have to get good enough to stop it, right? What Piotr did. Um,
yes,
Piotr's never, as good as Piotr is, Piotr's never going to be the wrestler that Jan or Marab is. Never,
right.
right? And to actually tie this back into like the three gun world, like I talked about when I was a kid, you know, I was never going to be the pistol shooter that Jerry Mischlik or Mike Voigt or any of those guys were. But because it's everything, because it's three gun, I can now all of a sudden be competitive because there's more things you have to worry about and you can start to really break away. And that's the nice thing about like MMA is Jan's never going to be the wrestler that Marab is, but he just has to be good enough to be able to do his thing. He has to be good enough to stop the takedowns to get back to his game plan. Um, Alex is doing the same thing. He's good enough to stop the takedowns to make sure that it stays as a striking match. And again, to tie that back in, like that's the nice thing about doing multi-gun as opposed to pure pistol, pure rifle, pure shotgun, is there's room for different disciplines and different skill sets and um, different emphasis areas to allow for people to really stay competitive, uh, as opposed to having to know everything about one thing. You can start getting into that maybe half mile wide, 100 yards deep instead of mile wide, foot deep, or foot wide, mile deep. You now start to get this distribution of skills that you need, and as long as you can kind of meet everything, you're good enough everywhere, you can be very, very competitive, which is a very cool thing. I like the overall MMA three gun style competition as opposed to the hyper fixated specialization competitions.
So, do you watch the decathlon during the Summer Olympics?
I will turn it on, but I respect those guys. I will turn it on. I don't follow it. No.
Well, I'm just saying because like three gun is like the
Yep.
decathlon of the shooting sports,
Yep.
and like it's exactly what you're saying. To be a world champion in the decathlon doesn't mean you have to be the best at all 10 freaking
Yep.
events. But if you can be in the top 10 in all of those events, you're going to be the best in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. I saw it firsthand. I mean, if you get 80s, if you were to shoot 85s on every single stage at a national championship, you will be in the top 10. 100%. If every single stage you have is an 85 and you don't vary from that, you can get a B on every stage. And I would bet money you are a top 10 shooter. You just have to be consistent and you have to be good enough, right? And as long as you are consistently good enough, you will absolutely maintain that competitive edge. And you will be somebody that is really difficult to contend with, which is the nice thing again about having so many different things to work on is you get all of that room to go back and forth and to let some things excel and basically cover for shortfalls in other areas.
So, how much harder is the mental game in something like three gun versus a one or two gun sport?
Um, I don't think it's too bad. I think the only real, trying to say this precisely, I think the only really difficult thing is the fact that three gun introduces just such crazy targets. So like, if you think about a pistol stage or even just a rifle, well, we'll say a pistol stage. You think about a USPSA stage, you're gonna get very few new things. You're going to get static paper, you're going to get static steel, maybe you get some moving paper, but other than that, that's really it, right? You're going to expect to shoot a pistol target within 35 and anywhere from 1 to 35, and it's going to be stuff you've seen before in different combinations, but it's going to be stuff you've seen. Whereas as soon as you get into a three gun stage, it's like, okay, I may have everything that I would expect to see in a normal USPSA stage, and then at the end of this or at the beginning of this, I've got a target at 500 yards, or I've got flying shotgun clays that are activated by other steel that I'm hitting. Those are the things that I would say really start to throw it off. But other than that, like when you remove those extraneous targets, like the long distance, the crazy movers, to me, the way I do my stage plans is the same no matter what gun I'm shooting. I try to get to, like, the way I walk through it from and hopefully this answers your question. Like when I look at it, no matter what I'm shooting, I look at how many targets of each type are there for each gun, and then I just start breaking down how many shooting positions and how many targets I need at each shooting position. So whether it's rifle, pistol, 2-gun, 3-gun, whatever the case is, I go, okay, there's 10 paper, 5 steel between rifle and pistol, so there's 6 and 4. Okay, I need to have a shooting position here where I've got 3 and then 3 and then 2 and 3 and then 2 and 2 and 1. Like that's how I break everything down. So for me, it's not that much different. Obviously, they become longer stage plans, which is where doing what I just did, I think, is helpful, as opposed to like, okay, well, I'm going to do 17 over here and then 12 over there. Like, I just break it down and I go, okay, 4 targets, 3 targets, 2 targets, 4 targets, and I'm done. Right? That's how I do my stage planning. So as long as those crazy targets don't come in, it's not unwieldy at that point.
Okay.
Does that answer that at all?
Yeah, it does. Does it? Let me ask you this though. How much longer, if any, does it take? I guess what I'm looking for is in a USPSA match, you probably have 4 or 5 minutes to, do your walkthrough,
I
memorize
see.
your stage plan. 2-gun, so multi-gun, does it take longer to solidify
I
that
see what you're
plan? And
saying.
3-gun, does it take longer than
Yeah, I
2-gun?
see what you're saying. Okay,
Okay.
yes. So I'll use easy numbers here. The I would say that most of the time when you shoot a 2-gun stage, and we'll just use 2-gun to make this easy, most of the time when you shoot a 2-gun stage, any one component, like the pistol component or the rifle component, is only ever going to be 75% as hard as a 1-gun stage of the same thing. So the pistol component of a 2-gun stage is only ever going to be 75% as hard as a true pistol stage. The problem is you're doing it twice. So if you get 75% and 75%, now you're doing 150%, if that makes sense. So that
Okay.
is, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, that becomes a little bit more difficult because now I'm thinking, okay, how many pistol paper and steel do I have, and how many rifle paper and steel do I have? So it's like, okay, is the 4-4-3 on the pistol, and then once I drop it, then I have to do 2-2 and 1. Like that becomes a little bit more difficult. But at that point, again, I'm still just breaking it down into 2 things because you're not running them at the exact same time.
Right.
Although this PCSL Nats with like the drop targets, the drop mag targets, that was odd because you are running them again. Most of the time it's like, okay, shoot the rifle, neutralize the rifle, and then come back
Mm-hmm.
and go to your pistol. This time it was like, all right, you shoot the pistol and then you drop the mag and you put it back in your holster, and then you pick up the rifle and you go shoot the rifle, and then you drop the rifle and you go back to it's like, oh boy. There were a few of those that were a little odd. That was new for me. I'd never seen any stages like that, like with the drop mag targets. But yeah, that's how I would describe it. Is it's never going to be any one component of the stage is never going to be as much as the pure like pistol only thing. But if you have 60 to 70% twice, now all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I'm at 120, 150% of what I was doing normally. Cause you have to think about, okay, I've got to do this, this, and this, and there's a reload for this gun. And then I drop it and I've got to brain dump what I just did for that gun. And I've got to go back to functionally a second stage plan for the second gun and go from there. Is that closer to what you're looking for? And that is an issue that I face, is like, okay, when do I make that transition? I think about having almost two stage plans going into it.
Yeah, it does. So, but I'm going to keep digging deeper here.
Okay.
So on a pistol only stage, in the 4-minute walkthrough time, you can obviously come up with a very good stage plan, and you can really,
hopefully,
yeah, hopefully, well, yeah, and determine exactly where you're going to be, how you're going to get there, all of that, and in between the shooters until you get up there to shoot, you're constantly running that plan through your head. So if you're in one of those stages and you have a brain fart, there's a bigger issue there, because you should be able to memorize a single stage with a single gun in 4 minutes and be ready if you're the first shooter. But I feel like once you hit multi-gun or 3-gun, now it's like, having not done it, I wonder how much, what if being able to commit a USPSA or an IDPA or whatever pistol, organization you want to use, committing one of those to memory and having it in your brain so it's somewhat subconscious. You're not consciously thinking about, oh, I need to run here, I need to run there. If you can do that in 4 minutes, and that's 100%. What percent is a multi-gun? Are you going to be at 80% of that same stage planning ability? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like there are 100 and 100 here.
Yeah. It really just depends. If you're talking about it in a vacuum, you've only got like that 4 or 5 minute walkthrough, it's going to be a little bit harder. But again, to me, I can partition them and I can think about them as part A of the stage, part B of the stage, and I can memorize those two. I have absolutely had the back end start to go awry. So typically, like, and maybe this will help, when I start going through, if it's a really complex stage, do you remember? I don't remember what stage it was. It was where the guy was taking the pictures for social media. That stage that had like all the wall. It was at PCSL. It had like all the walls, and it was rifle and pistol.
Inside that little maze thing?
Yeah, not the maze, not the shoot house one, the other one that was a little bit longer. So the maze one, I didn't do all that well on that stage. I did okay, but we ended up doing a split squad on that stage, so nobody really got to plan that one well. Yeah, we were behind schedule there, so nobody really got to plan that well. No, I don't remember which one it was. It may have been like 3 or 4. Again, it was where the guy was doing the social media pictures, where you had to put your handle down and do all that. It was a very long stage, both in terms of round counts and time. Like, I think everybody was doing it around a minute ish, and you were going back and forth in the stage. So with that one, functionally, what I tried to do was, like, when I go through this, I try to take care of the most complex stuff first and put all of my brain power into solving the complex stuff first. So that way, by the time I get to the end and I start getting tired and I start getting confused, things are simple and straightforward in front of me. So I will do as much as I can to identify the difficult portions of those stages and take them out first. So that way, by the time I start getting tired and start running into autopilot, the stuff is very obvious. So I might get to, again, in that first initial 4 or 5 minute walkthrough, I might get 60 to 80% done, counting on the fact that, yeah, I'm going to hopefully get to see more shooters go through this, and I'll see it when I tape, and maybe I'll see somebody do this. But if you're first shooter, it's like, I'll tell you, and this actually was the pistol only stage. I've been talking about how it's easier. And then I'll use this as an example. I was the first shooter on the pistol only stage, the one with that crazy monkey swinger, whatever they called it, the funky monkey swinger.
The holy monkey, yeah.
That thing, yeah. I was the first shooter on there, and I can tell you, I feel like I did not get enough time to plan that stage. I went through, and even on that, I was maybe 80%. Like that was just a bad stage plan. I did it poorly. I objectively should have done it better. I objectively should have run it better. But that was because I had the 4 minutes to walk it, and I was the first shooter, so I didn't get to see how anybody had done it. And all I was trying to do was figure out, okay, well, how many shots? And like, I couldn't count. Like, I went dry. I have video. I went dry in the middle of a paper, and I yelled "dumbass" at myself. I went to slide lock. I went bang, dumbass, and had to slide lock reload on a piece of paper. Like that, I just had a poor stage plan. And that one, again, I had the 4 minutes to walk it. I was the first shooter. I got to like 80% there because I just couldn't partition correctly. Like, okay, 3 targets here, 4 targets there, 5 targets there, reload. I just couldn't do that well enough. With other stages, and that one, there was so much going on in that stage, I couldn't front load the complex parts of that stage. So when you get into a 2-gun stage, again, my goal is front load the complex stuff, get as many targets from one shooting position as I can, so that way it starts to become very obvious as I move forward, expecting to have that lower, like maybe not quite as efficient stage plan. If I can internalize it really well and run it really quickly, that slightly less efficient stage plan that I'm completely confident in will always be better than trying to memorize too much.
Right.
So if I can figure out exactly, I keep mentioning this, my whole goal is figure out how many targets are in the stage and find where I can move in the stage naturally, where there's a natural progression of movement, again, so that way as I start getting tired, it makes sense what I'm doing. Set myself up in this natural progression of the stage and figure out how many targets I can hit from each spot. I'm not trying to figure out my shooting positions as much as I'm trying to figure out my targets. So I kind of let the targets dictate where I shoot from rather than trying to find where to shoot the targets. So I will go through and start running the stage plan. And again, I look for the most complex stuff first. So in the stage that I'm talking about, there was a section to the left where there were 4 paper, and there was one that was like really tucked over to the right, and then 1, 2, 3, and then you backed up a little bit, and there were 2 more rifle paper on the far left side, and then you ran all the way over, and the rifle dump box was on the far right side of the stage. So for me, what I did was I was like, all right, I have to go into this section to shoot these. There's no way I can shoot these targets from back. So I'm going to start at the deepest, most disadvantageous position and just get it done. So that way, the only thing I'm doing, like as I shot that stage, I worked on the hardest target first. So I had to do this crazy lean, hardest target first, backed out into the 3 slightly easier ones. And I didn't end up having to go back into that section of the stage because I had done it first. That meant that all I had to do was back up, look left, look forward, and then move right, and everything was right in front of me. So because I'm not trying to get to that perfectly 100% efficient thing, I'm breaking it down saying, okay, this is the most complex part. This is where I can shoot a bunch of these targets. Boom, there's 4 targets. I back up. Boom, there's 3 more. I move over here. Boom, there's 3 more. And then there's my last 2. So again, as I start doing that, that was my rifle stage. And as soon as I dump the rifle, I just do the exact same thing in reverse with the pistol. And it's like, all right, here's my 2 pistol targets. I move over here. Here's 3 more. I move over here. Here's 2 more, and I'm done. So again, I'm trying to just get myself to a point where, because there's a lot more to focus on, again, I front load the most complex things, and I remove instances in which I have to really solve problems late in the stage. I want to do all of my work solving problems at the beginning. So again, that way I can just go towards the end and just kind of move naturally and let things make sense. If that's any clearer. Like that's how I try to go about it.
Yeah.
I look at where I have to go. I look at where, if I have to go to this position, how long do I have to be there? How many targets can I do it? And does it make more sense to start or end there? Right. I never want to try to, there are like dead zones in stages basically where you have to go over there, but it's just going to take all sorts of time to do it. So I want that dead zone to be at the beginning or end, so that way I'm not going to it, coming back, and then going around this way or that. Right? I want to make it very obvious from there.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
not sure
One
that helps at
last.
all, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very interesting your take on how you do it. I think that's a good way of looking at. I like to do the complex stuff up front because I also feel that if you're going to typically if you're going to mess something up, it's going to be towards the end of the
right.
stage, not at the beginning. So okay,
Yep.
I think that's a good strategy to have. All right. So rate, here we go. Last question about it. Rank them in order of easiest for stage planning. 3-gun, 2-gun, 1-gun.
Um, I honestly, so the 3-gun is usually hardest, but again, the way I approach it is I break down each gun into its own little stage.
Right.
So you could say
Okay.
3-gun at that point simply because there's 3 stages. And it would honestly be easiest if I could walk through an example stage. But I would say 3-gun because you're doing 3 stages. But the I've absolutely had single gun stages, whether it's rifle, pistol, shotgun, doesn't matter. Single gun stages that were more complex than 3-gun stages or multi-gun stages. Like
Okay.
I don't think the
So it's situation
difficulty.
dependent.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
um the complications or the difficulty comes from the fact that there's just more than one gun. Obviously, that does add a degree, of course, but I don't
Right.
think that that is actually the primary driver of how complex is the word I was looking for. I don't think that the complexity is driven by how many guns are in the stage. I think the complexity is actually what's going on in the stage. I could absolutely, and I could absolutely set up a stage with a pistol that is way more complex, way harder to stage plan for than one that has a rifle, pistol, and a shotgun, because I can just have you move in a straight line and go bop, 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 long range, long range, long range, drop this, pick up the shotgun, clay, 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 flyer, drop the shotgun, pick up the pistol, paper, 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 plate rack. And yeah, there's way more shots, there's way more targets. But again, if it's generally in a straight line, it's not all that complex. Or I could have you take a pistol and, or like one of the local clubs that I go to, Pima Pistol Club, it's like where Hunter Constantine shoots out of. The PCSL director, he loves doing back and forth stages. So what he loves doing is you have to go forward and backwards to shoot the entire stage. So like one stage, you can see it if you go on my Instagram. I start with the rifle at the back of the bay, and I shoot moving forward, and then I have to dump the rifle and then just go straight up in reverse and shoot the same things in the pistol once I've dumped the rifle. So like to me, that one's not all that complex, just because there's 2 guns. But now it's like, okay, is it fastest for me to shoot the pistol first and dump the pistol? Is it fastest for me to shoot the rifle first and dump the rifle? Should I start at the front and then go backwards with the rifle and then shoot pistol going forward? Vice versa. It's not necessarily the fact that there's 2 guns there. And in that case, yeah, having the 2 guns, you do have to think, okay, do I want to start with this one and move forward? Do I want to start with this one and move backwards? Like, how do I want to do that? But again, I don't think that that's actually the primary driver of complexity. I think the true driver of complexity is how many targets are in these odd arrays and these odd positions. How many shooting positions do I need? Yeah,
The
I think
stage
that's the
design.
primary. Yeah, I think that's the primary driver of complexity is how easy is it? How many shooting positions do I need? And how easy is it? And how natural of a flow from those shooting positions are there? I think that's, if I had to, right now, that's the best answer I can give is how many shooting positions are required to engage all the targets, and how efficiently can I go from shooting position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to N that we need. How efficiently can I do that? Because again, I've had some where it's like there's no other way to do it, then I go over here and then I have to go over here and then I have to go over there and then I go back over here and then I have to go up here and then you're done finally back in this. And it's like you're you're repeating where you're going because there's just no other way to do it. Versus, yeah, I can have 3 guns, but if I just go that's fine. So
Right.
yeah, the stage design itself is the primary driver of complexity. And again, naturally, you have to do the way I describe it. I'm doing 3 stage plans on a 3-gun stage because again, I think here's my rifle plan, dump it. Here's my shotgun plan, dump it. Here's my pistol plan, dump it. So yeah, there's 3 stage plans, but again, if they're all straightforward, that's very much manageable.
So I'm going to sum it up then because I think I got it now. So basically if all the stages across each match, 1 gun, 2 gun, 3 gun, were equally difficult, all a 5 on a 10, then obviously 3 gun is going to be more difficult because there's 3 moving parts.
You simply have more moving parts, yeah.
Right. But pistol could be an 8, 2 gun could be a 5,
Yep.
and you could have a level 3 difficulty on a 3 gun, and therefore the pistol would be more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
There
And
we go.
I've had stages where the rifle and pistol, it's a 3-gun stage, and the rifle and shotgun part are shoot the 2 targets in front of you, shoot the clays in front of you, and then the pistol's like, oh my god, what the hell's going on here, and vice versa. And it becomes one of those really complex stages. But yeah, it's the stage design at the end of the day. And that I would argue that boils down to how many positions are required to engage all the targets and what is the natural progression. So like with that shoot house stage, that one was terribly complex. And that one, if there was 1 gun versus 2 guns, it would have made it a little bit easier if it was 1 versus 2 guns because you're only going in one direction. Because
And you could focus on that one thing.
Right. But
yeah,
and you're moving in that one direction. But that one, you're having to go back and forth. And it's like, okay, what's the most efficient route? Because even if you are doing 1 gun there, if you recall, you come into that shoot house and you immediately have to shoot to the left. Like before you even walk in, you immediately have to shoot to the left. And then you walked into the shoot house and there was a hallway to the left and you had to shoot there. And then there was a hallway central with had 2 windows, and those 2 windows each had ports that are 2 ports that each had targets in them. And then you kind of turned left and there was like the living room to it. And that had 2 or 3 ports inside of it. And then you left that central room and you had to go all the way to the back. And that back had a window with the mover and then a spot on the right and then a whole bunch of open walls towards the end. Even if you're doing 1 gun, it's like, okay, do I go into the main room? Do I go down the hall and back up? You still have to think about where are those shooting positions most naturally efficient.
Right. But in that situation, then once you did that, then you had to figure out, okay, now I'm shooting the rifle.
And going rifle first, then pistol and go in reverse.
Correct. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So you've got to come up with one plan, figure out the most efficient way of doing it, and then come up with the second one in the same amount of time.
In the same amount of time, yeah. And that is absolutely where the difficulty is drastically increased. Is again, like the way I do it, I'm functionally creating 2 stage plans. And like I said, never really are those 2 stage plans 100, like never is the rifle portion 100% as difficult as a rifle only stage, but you're doing it twice. So again, if you have something that's 60% as difficult and 60% as difficult, you're now at 120% of what you would be doing with a single gun. So that's where a lot of that complexity can come in. And that's where like, oh man, 4 minutes is not enough. Like I want a whole lot more. I want a whole lot more. And God bless guys who are willing to go first, because I'm not. It depends on the stage, of course, but I'm not.
So on a stage like that, then, what is an acceptable level? And we'll use a 0 to 100 scale. Okay. What's if you're the first shooter, what's an acceptable level of being prepared? Like 80%? Is that or 90? Because I think 100%, or in this case, 120, if we're talking 60 and 60, I don't know that that's feasible in a 4-minute time frame. So what is it 100? Is it 90? Is it 80? What is it?
So I don't think you're ever going to get to where you really want to be is the big thing. There should almost be like, this is going to be this is not the solution that would work, but there should almost be this understanding that the first shooter on the next stage can just kind of bounce. Like I think it would actually be beneficial. Would this work and be functional? I don't know. But if we're on a squad together and I'm the first shooter on the next stage, once I finish shooting and I've paced it and reset a couple runs, I should be able to go to the next stage and watch, because that changes drastically. Seeing a
Okay.
stage plan, like
Yes.
I would argue maybe some of the best guys out there would disagree with me, but I would say my personal belief would be, um, I would rather have, I'll just use bigger times. I would rather have 10 minutes to walk through it and watch people shoot it than 20 minutes to do it without seeing people do it. Like, I will take 10 minutes to plan it or 5 minutes to plan it. Well, no, I'll stick with 10, just to keep things over exaggerated. Give me 10 minutes and let me see other people do it as opposed to 20 minutes. Because sometimes you see things and you're like, that is much faster. Or, hey, I was going to do that and that really didn't work. Like, I don't want to do that. So I think there is a lot. It's not a simple thing. You're never going to get to that 100%. And instead, what you want to do is get to, again, something like 80 that you're confident in and can remember. 80% efficiency that you're confident in and can remember. That is very much acceptable. The problem is it's very difficult to do as the first shooter when you can't see other people do it, when you're waiting, and then everybody wants to get their stage plan in. People don't give the first shooter enough time, right? It always ends up happening is the first shooter,
Right.
he's trying to go, and then all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, hey, wait, where did I shoot that? And you're, oh shit, there's half the squad right there bunched up who's
Yep.
also trying to see the same array.
Waiting
So
for you to get out of their way.
waiting for you to get out of the way, and then you got to go back, and yeah, and you can't just tinker with the stage plan the same way you normally would. So I would say if you could get to something that you can, like 80% efficiency, that is confident and repeatable, because my what I believe to be the two best things, like the two things that are going to make the best shooters on the planet, are efficiency and consistency. And if you can combine those and be consistently efficient, that is 100% the way to be the best shooter on the planet. So if you can just get yourself to where you have an efficient stage plan that you can remember and execute consistently, and do it consistently, practice it consistently, and then shoot it the same way you planned it, that is huge. That is absolutely how you become very, very good and how you start winning national championships, I believe. And from a junior standpoint, that's what I did. But again, being consistent and efficient, if you have 4 minutes to do it, you're never going to get to that really 100%. And I don't think any shooter would tell you, can't keep things in my hands. I don't think any shooter would tell you that they ever felt like they were 100%. If you gave me all day to shoot that stage, maybe I would tell you, yeah, that felt like a 95. I don't think I would ever tell you, I feel like that's 100%. That's how I should shoot that stage. That's how I'm going to do it every single time. But if I got to hang out all day at that shoot house stage, yeah, maybe I could get to like a 95. And maybe other people disagree, but I don't know if anybody would tell you, yep, that's 100%. I'm definitely good. That's the best way. That's 100% the best plan. That's the 100% the best way I'm ever going to do it. And the way I shot it, like, that's definitely the best I can do. I think everybody will always say, no, I can squeeze a little bit more out of it. I can look to be a little bit more efficient. Eventually, depending on the stage, eventually you will stop making alterations to the stage plan. But you will start making alterations to the execution of that stage plan, right? Like,
Right.
uh, there are no more or no fewer shooting positions, but maybe I decide I'm just going to shoot as fast as I can at these three targets and then really slow down and aim at these other targets. I'll throw Charlies on these, but I'm going to get alphas on these. You start to shoot the stage plan just a little bit differently. But I don't think anybody's ever going to get to that 100%. Is 4 minutes enough to get to where you want to be? No, I don't think so. And again, especially without being able to see people shoot it, I don't think that is conducive to getting really comfortable with it either. So, is that my jump?
Shooter on 6. All right. So this is the stage where you jumped. So this was rifle and then pistol.
Yep.
On a scale of 0 to 100, what percent were you when the timer went off?
I was a little shaky on the very first thing. So as I started this, I was a little shaky on the very first engagement and the very first arrays that I went after. So I would say I was between, like when the buzzer went off, I jumped up to about 80 or 90 because I had
Okay.
seen other people do it. But what's happening here is the way I did this was I basically took one little step and I think I engaged 7 targets. So if I remember correctly, there's 11 paper. And like I said, I try to count how many targets of each. There's 11 paper, I think, for the rifle. Um, so my goal was if I just take a slight step to the right, I can shoot 7 of those targets. Some of those are harder shots than I would have to take if I were to move. So this is like what's the debate that's going on in my head is I can immediately start shooting and shoot 7 of the 11 targets, but 3 or 4 of those first 7 I could shoot again and have easier shots. The problem is that might give me 3 or 4 shooting positions instead of 2 or 3. So at the time of the buzzer going, like as I'm making the stage plan, I'm like 60%. The time of the buzzer when I finally just decide, nope, I'm going to take that small step, shoot these all from here. I'll deal with the fact that it's a slightly harder shot, and then I can just move. I was at 80 or 90.
Okay. And you can see right here, like Tim hits the buzzer or whoever it is who's running the timer,
Mm-hmm.
and you immediately step to the right, and then
Yep.
that's when you can see the impacts and stuff.
Yeah, because that just opened up that one last target. But what other people had been doing was shooting like 1 or 2 from here and moving up to the left, which I still ended up doing. But again, I think I shoot 7 and 3 and 1, I think is what I end up doing. And other people were doing like 3 and 4 and 5 or something like that, right? They did fewer targets on this initial position and then a few more in the secondary and a few more in the tertiary position, as opposed to again what I did, which was I take one step, slightly harder shots, but then I don't have to shoot in as many spots.
Okay. You're kind of hidden behind that one wall,
Yeah.
but you can see here where you're shooting from the back right of the
Yep.
stage to the left side because the berm is lit up in
Yep.
smoke. And then you come across.
Yeah. So as soon as I get to this position, I don't know if I end up having to move up after this until I actually have to get to that one that's all the way into that port. But again, from
Right.
here, I can hit everything I didn't see.
Okay.
So boom, I come up here, and now the only one left should be just yeah. So the only thing I had to do at that point was just dump the. There was one that no matter what you couldn't see until you got to the port, so you had to be in the port.
Right.
But for me, it was like okay, I take one step to the right, and I can shoot a handful of these, even though they're slightly harder shots. I can shoot a handful of these, and then I can move up to the left and shoot those 2 or 3 that I didn't see before, and then I go up and I shoot that one that no way around it. I have to shoot from the port. So what other guys were doing were these targets to the left that you can see with your camera, like all the way to the left side where you got that 1, 2, 3, and then the stacks. Some of the
Yeah.
guys were shooting those from the second position that I took, whereas again, I shot a bunch of those from the first one, and I don't remember where each target was, but basically what they were doing was some of them would move up to shoot the targets, but they had to do a slight lean back or they kind of had to shuffle in between and do stuff there versus again, I can take one step out, engage everything here, and then scoot over and engage those. And again, by the time that buzzer goes off, I would say 80% because I'm still considering like, is this the best way to do it? But once I actually get into it, and by the time I'm done shooting those targets from the second position, that is, I'm committed, right? It doesn't really matter if I feel like I can't get to
Right.
100. I'm committed. I'm going to give it 100% effort. If it's 100% efficient, I don't know, but that is what I'm doing. So I'm not worrying about anything else at that point. So once I get to this, I dump the rifle, and this is another. Here was another thing: is like this was not 100% efficient when I pull out the pistol because I wanted to think, okay, can I start moving? Can I get to a position? The way this pistol stage or the way this pistol array worked was there was one pistol target that is really buried in the far right from this first position. So like I dump the rifle, you're shooting this way, there's 3, and then there's one that's really buried over here. So I'm sitting there going like, I've got to have more positions than I want. I can't just go into this port and then come over here. I have to like tilt out a little bit and then I can come over here. But as I turn, that's where I can start just shooting on the move and just plugging targets as I move up through that secondary port for the last 4 pistol targets. I can plug those targets through the secondary port, and that's not as much of a concern. So the first port was a little shaky. The second port was like, yep, this is where I'm good. So even in that stage, this is okay versus nope, that's definitely what I need to do.
After having shot it and seeing other people how they shot the stage, would you have done anything different in hindsight?
No. So I like
Okay.
my plan for this. I pretty much like my plan for this.
All right. So now you're up front with the rifle.
This is
And
pistol at this point, I think.
oh, okay. I think it looks like maybe you just pulled it out. Maybe I'm wrong. All right. So that's rifle.
That's rifle. Dumped it. Yep.
Dumped
So
it. Yep. So there you go. Yeah. Now you're pistol.
yep. So there's the pistol. Yeah. So I'm gauging the steel that's right there to the left of the paper. Get off mute. There we go. Yeah. So, and then there's the leap. Yeah. There's the leap. So the leap, I'm looking at this, and again, I'm having trouble moving at this point. So there was actually, believe it or not, there was some thought that went into this. I'm having trouble moving at this point, and I'm like, okay, if I come around from the side, I'm going to have to go upstairs. And what I don't, so with my injury, I would much rather do. I'll give you a stupid example that should help here. If I have to move, like 100 pounds, whatever. If I have to move 100 pounds from one place, from point A to point B, I don't want to do 10-pound trips. I want to do 2 50-pound trips. Like it's going to hurt me more to just keep moving. I would rather load up and do it once or twice than do it 50 times. So I looked at it and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to shuffle and then go up these stairs. And when I go up the stairs, I'm gonna step on it laterally and it's gonna start doing this. Versus if I go straight down on it, it's gonna hit and sit still. It's not gonna flex down, right? It's not gonna spring up and down, but it is gonna shift side to side. So as I start looking at this, I asked the RO, I was like, hey, do you have to use the stairs? And he said, no, you can do whatever you want. You could roll onto it. And I said, okay, because my plan was to vault over it with my, like I was gonna grab the rail and vault over it, and support myself with my hand. So I was like, at that point, I'll be jumping over and vaulting over and landing on it straight down. It should be, relatively stable when I go straight down. Yeah. So that was the idea. And then I got I got live and I went, that's too low. I'm just going to jump it. I'm just going for it. And I was like, I think I can make that. So I got enough momentum and I went sideways, thankfully, with my legs. I probably should have done that not wearing my boots and worn tennis shoes for it, but whatever. But yeah, that was the thought process behind it. It was legitimate. Like I'm seeing other people take literally more steps. So they're going further and then they're having to balance their way on it and try to get it to stop moving versus I can just go over it. It'll land straight down. It won't bounce. It won't go up and down. It's going to have very minimal lateral movement. I'm literally removing steps and I'm removing the time and effort that is needed to stabilize this thing and stop it going sideways.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt that was the most efficient movement to get onto the bridge for sure.
And they said impress it. So I was like, I got to do something.
Well, now the real question is, did you earn enough belt cash to pay the copay if you had to go to the ER?
Let's see. What's my insurance? Not with my hospital. My hospital, they're really slimy. They like to try to double charge people. But no, I got $20 out of it. I got $20 out of it. So I'll pat myself on the back. The RO said, he was like, hey, Hunter told us to give us $1, $5, $10. That's what the RO said was $1, $5, $10. And then they came over and he was like, all right, he was like, come here, you earned this. And he doled out $20. So, and then I ended up going with the cash stack on the shoot off too.
Well, and that's where I wanted to go next. But I mean, I was there on that over there at that stage when Tim gave you the cash. So and then we talked,
Yeah.
once you walked away from everybody, then I walked over and I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, very
Yeah, that
pretty."
brightened my day up, by the way. Again, thank you for doing that. That was cool. I was riding high after that, I'll tell you what.
Were
So,
you really?
oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's talk the shoot off win
Yeah.
because yeah, not only did you, well, first off, your thoughts on a squad shoot off in the middle of the match like that.
Going into it, I thought it. So going into it, I'll admit I didn't know what it was 100%. Like that, I was getting told that it was a shoot off and it was the vendor and this and that, and I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And I saw that it wasn't a real stage, so I just turned. We did it the last day, um, so I stopped paying attention to it. Having shot it, super fun. I actually think it's a good idea. Um, and maybe that's 100% subjective because that was our first stage of the day. So it was a free warm up that was a whole lot of fun. It got me going. I was like, this is cool. Everybody's
Gets a
getting into it.
blood pumping.
Blood
Yeah.
pumping. Yup. Get warmed up physically, get warmed up mentally shooting. Really easy stage, but it's like, okay, these are decent shots. We're working on a plate rack and we're working on one of the mini targets. Like they're not 100% gimme targets. They were relatively easy, but it's like, all right, you still have to turn your brain on a little bit.
But people still missed them.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like, I'm pushing too fast.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
gave you that throttle control practice right at the very beginning. Yeah, so again, going into it, like the first 2 days, I was like, I don't care. What is this? Doesn't matter to me. And then I got there, I was like, this is so fun. So yeah, I ended up winning it. I had to shoot against my dad in the second round. That was a bummer. Um, but went up against Jordan. I think his name is Hall, Jordan Hall. Real super fast, and then another one of the guys, Jeffrey Howdeman. He was really fast, and those two actually ended up shooting off against each other. And yeah, I won the first two on the finals, so just immediately shot the best 2 out of 3, and it was against another guy in competition. So, but yeah, that was a lot of fun, and again, it ended up being very helpful because I believe that was our first stage of the day. So, like I said, I got to go in and shoot something that if I lost, who cares? But I've now shot and I've warmed up, and I appreciated the fact that the range had the practice bays running. That was super cool. Um, but it's not the same. I can go out and shoot a mag and run doubles, but that's not the same thing as being on a stage. So
No.
just because I can go pull my trigger a little bit, that doesn't mean that everything, the competitive mindset, the stage plan, the throttle control aspect, those muscles don't get worked just because I got to go load something and shoot. Um, so being able to do this shoot off first was great because again, got a little bit of pressure on the line. You're shooting off against somebody, people are cheering, whatever. Uh,
Yep.
so
Or
and
jeering.
yeah, uh, and yeah, it was another opportunity to actually win stuff too. Because I came from when there used to be insane prize tables, and I didn't stick around. But the fact that everybody's going to get to win at least a little bit is really nice, and it helps people out in the middle of the match, gives them a little morale boost. Um, so yeah, I ended up winning it, and they started putting the prizes out. And I went with like the middle of the pack, but there was a stack of $100 bills. There's a band of $100 bills with a belt wrapped, the belt sticker on it. And I said the meme is too good. Like my dad and I have an FFL, so we can get the optics. We have distributor accounts, so it's like I can get it Holosun, I can get the Vortex, I can
Right.
get those. What I can't do is grab a stack of hundreds whenever I want. So I
And
ended
it
up
was a
going with
100 singles, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My
So you're
Christmas
ready
tree.
for Vegas.
I was in fact ready. Yeah, I bought my Christmas tree. I got a real one this year, and I bought my Christmas tree with my singles. Yeah, so I
Oh, there
shoved
you
the
go.
$20 in from that stage. I shoved them into the band, and I think that's one of the pictures I have on my post on it about Instagram or on Instagram is all of it fanned out on top of the shirt.
Yeah.
So
Okay. That's what
yeah.
so that included the 20.
Yep. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was really cool. I would like to see it again. I'm sure that actually a lot of people could be miffed about it and it could go poorly if they, if they get too much into it and then end up losing. I'm sure there is actually some risk associated. But the nice thing is it doesn't count. So, it's not
Right.
towards your score. So it's like, even if you go train wreck, you're like, all right, well, let's get that out of the way and not do that on a stage that counts.
I was there. So Phil Strader and Mason Lane,
Okay.
and Kaylee and Stephen Lutman, they were all the last squad to get to that
Okay.
stage. And you could tell the energy level was down. Like
Yeah.
it was 3 long days of shooting. They were
Yeah.
tired. And like Phil Strader, normally he's very boisterous,
Mm-hmm.
and quite funny, but it's probably the least boisterous I've ever seen him at a match.
Yeah.
But even then, the amount of jockeying back and forth and everything else, immediately, a different side of people comes out, and it
Yep.
was the excitement level went back up. And Mason got knocked out because he had a malfunction that he
Yep.
just couldn't clear quick enough. So you never know when something like that's going to happen. And now, instead of being typically 4th or 5th in your squad, well,
You're
you
on
just got
top.
first
Yeah.
place in the shoot off.
Yep.
Getting your picture taken with the white erase board with your name
Yep.
in there, and
Yep. And getting your prize first. And yeah.
yeah.
Again, I'm a believer now. I was doubtful going into it. I thought it was just kind of a gimmick. And now I'm like, nah, man, that is fun. I hope to see more of it.
I do too, actually.
Yeah, I hope to see more of it. And again, the guys doing the DJing and all that, like it, cool.
Yes.
Cool.
I told him, I said, my live stream's probably going to get yanked from Rumble because there's going to be a copyright problem with the music. But yeah, that was pretty wild. That was good. And I've been telling people, I'm like, there's a lot of people who want to run in USPSA, a level 2 match or bigger. And if you want people to talk about your match and you want them to come back the next year, run one of those stages.
You got to do something like that.
They will be back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
people, it's going to be what everybody talks about. I mean, I moved my live streaming setup to that stage because I'm like, there's nothing better to live stream than people shooting head to head against each other. And half the time it's, people that know each other on the stages. So there's so much trash talking going on. But it's all like in good nature though,
It's all easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't, there's not that much on the line, right?
No.
Especially if you know the guys. Like, again, it was nice for us being the third day because I didn't know anybody coming into the match. I didn't squad up with anybody I knew. So we had a little bit of a camaraderie going, and now it's like, all right, we can test that. We can see who's actually chill and this and that, and we're going back and forth. And again, everybody's having a good time. And like I said, I shot off against my dad and smoked him. I shot off against my dad.
Not sorry, Dad.
Yeah. I didn't actually smoke him. He was close. He was good. But people are messing with us more than we were at that point. It's like, it's going to be a long ride home, just going back and forth to each other. Like, yeah, okay.
Right.
And so people can start to go back and forth and jump into it, even if it's not them. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the advantages to the people who shot it on the third day was they, again, going back to Phil, most people know who Phil is, but have probably never shot with him at a match, so here you've got people who know of him, but don't know him, and he doesn't know them, just like you and I never knew each other before that match.
Yep.
And now they're shooting together. Well, during that squad shoot off, there was stuff being said. I was like, that's questionable.
Maybe a little too much.
Yeah,
a little too comfortable.
Yeah. I'm like, whoa, it's getting awkward in here.
Yeah.
So, but that was the benefit of them doing it. I guarantee you, I'd be willing to bet another 120 on top of your 120 that they would not have said that on day one.
Right.
You
Right.
know, but they all kind of grew together enough that they felt like they knew kind of where the boundaries were.
Yeah.
So
And
it
maybe
was
that's something to look into is actually just build it in towards the end of a match. You know, maybe that's something that I wouldn't want to have to figure that out. I can't imagine trying to run that schedule,
right.
but maybe that is something to consider, is just get that cooked in, so everybody gets that opportunity to become homies a little bit first, and then jeer at each other.
Most level twos nowadays, it seems to me, I could be wrong, but it seems to me most of them are skipping the chrono stage.
Okay.
So why not just replace
Yep.
the chrono
Turn
with a
it into
squad
that.
shoot-off?
Yeah.
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 Have at it,
That'd be a
man.
good. That'd be a good solution.
Absolutely. Just replace it. It doesn't. Chrono doesn't count for anything, but
Right.
oh, you made power factor.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just under. You're just over. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for making me empty all my magazines
Right.
and
Yeah.
all this other nonsense.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Right. So yeah, just put that in there, man. And the people who run chrono can easily do like that squad shoot off. It only took three. Well, I say you could do it with two people. Easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's a
Yeah.
minimal number of targets.
And the shooters
One
are still
RO per
keeping-
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good. You had
Absolutely.
three at a minimum to be safe, to say one RO per, and then one to watch everything else going on, and you're done. Which is what everybody had. Every other stage has that anyway.
Right.
And the times when I was doing chrono, it was 2 or 3 people doing the chrono.
Yeah. I mean, there's so little movement. There's so little anything that's probably the one stage. If you only had 2 ROs to put on there, you could still do it safely because you have an RO per. And again, it's just a little bit of lateral movement.
Touching right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
pretty safe.
Yeah. I'd like to see more of that. That was fun.
Yeah. I agree that I had, do you know Mike Bauer?
No, I don't believe
he's
so.
he's Southern California, so I didn't know if he does 3-gun stuff. So I didn't know if, a lot of times you guys who do that stuff in the same region run across each other. But anyway, I posted a quote from him saying, you found the secret sauce. Don't, do it again and keep doing it. And he's a match director. So he's like, you found it. This is it. This is the holy grail,
And again, it's not like stealing. Shoot-offs have happened before. Shoot-offs happened in 3-gun. So it's such an easy thing to just borrow that idea and go from there.
But again, Mason brought up the point. He goes, typically you're going to find me and all the other top guys in the shoot-off.
Yep.
95% of people don't ever get a chance
to touch it. Yeah. And now it's there. Yeah.
Every single person got to do it. And like I said, Mason got knocked out. Tom got knocked out. Nils won his, but he got pushed to 3 by Mike.
Nils was right in front of us. I got to see him. Yep. He was right in front of us.
So, yeah, I mean, so here is an opportunity for Joe Snuffy to shoot off against, world-class shooters and see how they do one-on-one. Again, you got nothing to lose.
Get him. And potentially get him.
Mike said he's going to make a t-shirt, he's going to start making t-shirts about stuff. It was funny. So, yeah, I mean, having witnessed it, I understand why it should happen. But I think the harder part is relaying that with the same emotion to another match director who wasn't there and doesn't understand it.
And doesn't know if he wants to take that risk. And
is it a gimmick? Like you said, because I'm like, a squad shoot-off. I wasn't, because the first day I got there, Wednesday afternoon, I can't remember if it was Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday afternoon. Max was like, hey, do you want to see where the shoot-off's going? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Because I'm thinking in my mind, this is the end of the match shoot-off.
Right.
And he's like, this is where we're doing it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I walked it. And then it was after that I learned, it's like, no, every squad is doing that. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Now I'm intrigued. And then after I live streamed the first day, I go over there and I'm live streaming 7 and 6. So the stage
Yep.
you leaped on, and that 2 bay stage,
Yep.
because I think that's a good stage. I could put the camera right at that
Right.
berm
The
in the
junction.
middle,
Yeah.
and I had 2 cameras, one facing this one facing. So you saw the guy shoot on the first stage and then run out of one camera into the other
There you
camera
go.
and then
Yep.
finish up on that stage. I'm like, man, what a great live streaming stage
Yep.
for static cameras. And then, I took a break and I went over to the squad shoot off and I'm listening and I'm like, no, I need to be over here because this is where all the emotion and the
Yes.
excitement and all of it was. It was like being on a TV game show,
Yes. Yes.
especially when Tom was over there berating people.
He was the one running it,
Tom
or Tom
Castro,
Castro.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Castro, yeah. That was hilarious to hear him talking about people.
Yeah.
And it was,
Some of the
again, good natured,
Yep.
funny.
Yeah. The guys that were running our run of it, some of them were going great. Like there were a few where it's like, Jordan, you suck. What are you doing? It's like, oh, hey, I didn't say that. He did. Like, take it easy. Yeah,
Right,
they were getting into it too. Like you said, like, hang on, wait a minute, maybe a little too much.
right. So, yeah, that's. So I assume you've never run across that in all of your time in shooting
So
either.
I did one of the old school shoot offs, um, in like my very first year doing the actual tour for Three Gun Nation. And Dad, you were right again. I should have brought my cleats. I ended up slipping on the grass going into the final thing, but I think I did one.
Okay.
And it was, and like you said, it's the 95% of people never did it because it was the 4 top juniors in the Three Gun Nation tour that were doing the shoot off. And so it was myself, it was Katie Harris, who ended up shooting for Noveski, and Cody Leapers. And I don't remember the fourth kid's name, but it was the 4 of us. And again, Dad, I should have brought my cleats. But that was it. And like it was a single elimination. I was gone. We didn't get to do it again. And then the shoot off was all super cool. And, Danny would go shoot it, and those guys would do really well. And it looked super awesome. And Rob Romero and the other Noveski shooters, they'd go run it. But it was like, okay, yeah, nobody else gets to do this. And instead, people are just watching, and it's a spectator sport, which is cool. But again, now you're getting people involved. So,
Right.
and like you said,
Yeah.
they get to come back and they're like, oh man, I took second at my. Now they get to come back and say, hey, I took second at nationals. Like, oh, really? Yeah, in the squad shoot off. Like,
Yeah.
they can sneak that in there. You know how
Sure.
to, yeah, you just sneak it in there.
And that's what Mike was saying. It's bragging rights for
Uh
a
huh.
year. You
Uh
got
huh.
bragging rights for a year.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It was a fantastic idea. Again, I was not a believer. I am now a believer. So,
Yeah, I think you really have to see it to understand it. But yeah,
yes.
it was, and it is out there. If people want to go look at it, it's on Rumble. Just look at the
Yep.
Casual Shooter podcast. It is there. You can watch hours of the squad shoot off. So let's go back now to you were talking about what 2026 is going to look like for you.
Yep.
So before we get into all of the specifics again, how does that fit in with your physical ailments and your day job?
Yeah. So the nice thing is, my day job is pretty liberal as far as me being able to do this. So I primarily teach online. This coming semester, I'll be driving up and back. So I'll have to commute, which sucks. But that's 2 days a week. So 2 long days a week of commuting, and then meetings and one other online class. But that should give me my weekends and my Mondays, like Friday through Monday. I should have time to get out and train. And I'm doing my dry fire and like the ACE and that sort of stuff. So training stuff shouldn't be too bad. My energy levels are going to drop, but I should be able to maintain that.
Okay.
The physical stuff, that's a different story. I'm actually hoping to have another back surgery because I want to get my back fixed. And obviously, if that happens, then any ideas I have are just out. They're just gone. But if it can go in and no longer be broken, that's worth it. Because then I'll shoot later. So that will throw a monkey wrench, assuming it's not going to get touched. then work shouldn't be too bad. I should be able to train more. And the thing with last year too is, um, it was a little bit of an experiment. Like I said, I was getting back into it. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to like it again. Now I absolutely have the drive. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting ready for it. I enjoyed doing it. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this a whole lot more. So I think that will also naturally have an improvement, a progression and an improvement and a shift in how much I'm doing, because I now got to see like, hey, the stuff, I won some local matches last year, and I went out and took not what I want, but certainly a respectable overall position. Um, Respectable position at nationals. Like, okay, there's room for improvement. I don't just suck, right? Like I can go from there and work on it. So the drive is there. I want to go compete. And again, if health allows, if I'm not getting fixed, then I should be fine. Uh, so there's that. Um, as far as actual goals for the year, more tangible, if that's, I'm assuming that was kind of the next aspect of it.
Yeah.
So absolutely going to keep doing PCSL. Absolutely want to shoot nationals again next year. I'm going to stay in the competition side, and this year, so my dad and I are Nighthawk dealers, and I have the guys over at Nighthawk doing something really super cool, and I'll get to that in just a second. So while my gun is being built, I'm going to focus on PCC and single stack USPSA, and I will shoot other stuff. I'll shoot local PCSLs, and just keep that, keep those muscles working. But I have not shot a USPSA PCC. I took third at Arizona State Champs for Open for PCC. And again, with that really bad fall and having some issues there. So I can hang. I ran some classifiers on my own time, and I'm bumping up against master I'm kind of solid dead center master scores when I set up classifiers and shoot with my own PCC. So if I really push it, should be able to squeeze out a little bit more. As far as single stack goes, I went and shot an all classifier match just to see where I was, and I had not been shooting single stack very consistently to that point. And I was split right down. I ended up leaving as a B shooter because the first three stages I shot were such bad D scores, like shouldn't have even counted, because I just completely train wrecked. Just nothing but train wreck. They were awful. I was not a good day. But the next three stages were all master. Like they were all very high master. One of them was 1/100th of a hit factor point away from GM. The rest of them were solid masters. So it's like, okay, if I can just get consistent, I will be an A or a master shooter immediately. And that was, again, without really putting too much into getting ready for that match. So while this gun that I have getting built is still in the works, I'm going to be slamming PCC and single stack and just make life easy. Just focus on those two things. The gun that I'm talking about, so that Predator Tactical, that 38 Super Comp STI that I used to compete with. Really quick, like I said, I'm a giant nerd. I'm a giant Lord of the Rings nerd. Where's my thing? There it is. In the Lord of the Rings, there's this sword. It's called Narsil, and it's what the guy beats Sauron with. He chops off the ring with the broken sword, and the shards of the sword are broken down from each king to the next, or I'm sorry, passed down from each king to the next. And finally, when the sword gets reforged, that's when the king comes back and basically saves everything. So that's the shards of Narsil getting turned into the sword that's called Anduril. So I'm taking my dead, dysfunctional open gun, the one that's broken, that won't work, and I have had Nighthawk build basically a blank gun, and I have sent back my old open gun. And what they're doing is they're stripping as many parts as they can off of the old broken open gun, and they're going to fit them onto this new gun, and they're going to reforge the sword or reforge the gun. So I've got Anduril engraved on the side, all the same stuff that's on the sword in Lord of the Rings, like all the same stars and moon and engraving is going to be on the slide. It's going to look like the sword, so it's going to be silver DLC with a gold barrel and gold fittings and a black grip, which is exactly what the sword looks like. So that is like a passion project that's getting made. They're doing it for me, so that's going to be awesome. And when that comes back, I'll start shooting open again for USPSA, which I am not very good. I'm not fast enough for USPSA. I'm a very dead, like, middle, maybe a little bit above average B shooter for open in USPSA. But I'll start shooting that some more, and then that's what I'll run at the next PCSL. And hopefully I'll be a little bit lighter, which will take some pressure off my back so I can move around a little bit better next year. But those are the things I want to hit. I'm striving for GM, but I at least want to have master in PCC and single stack by the end of 2026, which I think is a very feasible thing for me to do. And then I want to try to make top 10 for competition for PCSL Nationals next year. So,
And you were 42nd this year?
overall, 21st in competition. Yeah.
Okay, 21st. Okay.
Yep.
Now, is competition the open division for PCSL?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
and with PC, like with this last match, so I had that rifle only stage, that bridge stage. Um, I was averaging, I think I averaged about an 80-ish on all of my stages, except for that rifle only stage. I got a 37% because I forgot to re-engage the steel. So you had to shoot
Oh,
it twice.
no.
Yeah, yeah.
That
So
left a mark.
it left a massive mark. I actually had a pretty decent time. I had a pretty respectable time, but I got up there and I shot the distance paper from the bridge. So I was real wobbly and I was like, man, I'm taking forever to do this. And as soon as I finished shooting at those, I just completely forgot to shoot at the steel again. So misses, procedurals just completely crushed me on that stage. So that 21st was like, oh man, Jake, you earned that by just being dumb. So like I was saying earlier, like if I can get 80s, I think that, like, from past experience, 80s are where you really start to climb and just get into those top 10, top 15, worst case scenario. So get myself shooting more, getting more competitions under my belt, just so I have that time under pressure, time under the clock. I've got those reps, getting stage plans done and executing, or planning stages and then executing them, just so I don't have another goof like that where I forget steel. And hopefully just have a more consistent performance. Hopefully that performance is better anyway, but from there it's just more consistent. I don't have one of those just train wreck stages. And again, I think if I do that, I start moving up in competition pretty quick, especially if my back lets me, and I'm a little bit healthier. So
Gotcha. Okay. I'm looking at your, yeah. I mean, you had one in the 90s, you had one in the
yep.
60s, but
Yeah, that
overall,
was
yeah,
that
probably
pistol
right around
stage that was just
80.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably just averaged right around 80%. So,
Yep. So
okay.
take that 80, turn it into 85, which again, some of that is I just have to get better, right? Just got to spend more time shooting. Some of that is a health thing. I just have to move faster. Um, and I think those two things, hopefully with the health, certainly with the shooting, spend more time shooting, should go up from there. But yeah, I think that is a very feasible thing, is just, again, aim for that 85 across the board, no 37s. Try to get that master GM for single stack and PCC. Uh, and then just keep shooting matches. I had a bunch of them, but health was very up and down this last year. So I had a few months where I was doing a whole bunch of matches, and then a few months where I didn't do matches at all. So again, consistent. Like I said, Jake believes efficiency and consistency are the two things that make the best shooters on the planet. Efficiency, I will start to go up, but consistency, I need to get better with. So.
Okay. How much dry fire you think you'll be doing over this next year?
A lot. I've actually got a whole bunch of mini targets right there and all the push pins stuck in them. I can drive. It takes me like 30-ish minutes, 30, 40 minutes to get to my shooting spot. Um, And the issue is where I am, they will shut that down over the summer for wildfire concerns. So like over the summer, it's going to be basically nothing but dry fire and matches for me. But I dry fire, I use the target, like the mini targets, and just paste, tack those up all over my house. I just got myself one of the Ace virtual shooting things like 2 months ago. That thing is so much fun. Oh my god, it's so fun. So I shoot that a whole bunch, and I find that does transfer pretty well. That actually lets you do stage planning and like figure out when you need to be aggressive versus not, which is kind of cool. But whole bunch of dry fire. As much live fire as I can, but I typically dry fire daily. Even if it's just something as simple as like I come home, I download the gun, and before I change, like while I've still got my carry rig on, I work on the targets that I've pasted up really quick and do 5 minutes of draw, reload. And that's another thing is except for single stack, I want to do everything from concealment. I was really considering. I love shooting from appendix concealment. So I was really, really considering, and I wish I would have this year, shooting this match from concealment and going after the belt bounty. I'm going to go after the belt bounty in as many things as I can this coming year because I'm very comfortable. Like I think my best concealment draw was about 6'2". And I can hang out at that 9 to 1 second range. So
That's a pretty tall draw.
yeah,
6'2".
yeah.
I'm only 5'9".
Yeah. I gotta level the playing field. Yeah, so I can hang out in a decent time there. So I'd like to go after the belt bounty stuff too.
I think Hunter is getting a lot of people to.
Yep. He's
go
just
to.
north of me. I actually hit him up. I was trying to work on a project with him that didn't come to fruition, unfortunately. Not him, not his fault, my side. But he's just north of me, so I got to link up with him, especially since I got to thank him for the 120. I didn't run into him at Nationals, so and maybe that's another thing is hopefully I'll get to start shooting with some of those guys again and become a small fish. Because I need to be a small fish is the other thing. I can pretty consistently win my local match. So I need to get back out to where it's like, all right, I have to chase people again. I got to be at the bottom of the barrel and start looking, how are these guys actually doing it, and go back into just learning. And again, like development. I'm looking for development this year. So.
Right. Okay. That's everything that I had. Was there anything that you wanted to mention before we?
I don't think I really appreciate you getting me on here. This was again, that was like such a cool thing. I bragged so much. I was like, man, like this guy came over, like he talked about getting it on the podcast and this and that. And then when you reached out and asked me to get on here, like, just brightened up the day. So that was again fantastic. And I really appreciate what you're doing. It's cool that you're getting, like seeing the guests that you've had on. It's cool that you're getting you're making these guys accessible. You're making like the top shooters successful and being able to just talk to them and kind of get their experiences out there. Like I saw you had Brian Nelson on and Cardenas, I think that's how you say his name.
Yep.
That's fantastic that you're getting guys like that on here and picking their brains. And again, thank you very much for having me on here. I'm not sure I fit in that group, but I very much appreciate it.
Everybody does, because the whole point of the podcast is to show that whether you're Mason Lane, Jake Denno, Brian Nelson, pick anybody that I've had on the show, in a way, everybody has the same path.
Yep.
The time frames are different because some people are more intense from the very beginning to get, to that top level, or
Yep.
their devotion, they change how they plan their life out because that's what they want to do. And other people just, they reach that level and they're okay with that level. They're not looking to be a world champion. So,
yeah.
But it's interesting hearing everybody's story and how they get there and what they do to get there. And
any investment in any, basically celebration that can happen that just reinforces more responsible citizens getting into competitive shooting is fantastic.
100%. Yeah.
We need to have more gun owners need to be this type of gun owner. they need to be competitive. They need to care about their guns. They need to be proficient and care about their rights and care about their ability to be safe and proficient and good shooters, not just, my Second Amendment, anything that reinforces that and gets that out there is also just absolutely fantastic.
Well, and look, I'm in Virginia and we just had an election, and I know for a fact not everybody who owns guns, not all the hunters, not didn't go to the polling sites and vote. So now we're looking like all the other doofuses on the
Yep.
northeast of this country. So yeah, there's a lot of yeah. Need to be responsible in many ways, not just the way we handle guns. And but I agree with you, man. I would love to see more people. I know people who spend more time and effort shooting their airsoft guns in fake battles
Yep.
than they do their real guns.
Yep.
And it's like, dude,
You can go do it.
I'm like, why don't you come out with me? Let's go do this. You don't need anything more than you already have.
Yeah.
Let's go do this. And oh no, it's all right. I don't have time. It's like, dude, you talk about going, an hour away to play this airsoft thing.
Yeah.
Well, how about let's do some real
This is the one that matters. It matters with everything. Like, it saves
Yeah.
your life. It keeps the spirit of the country. It lets you be good. Like, this is the one that matters. Let's go do this. Let's invest in this. Yeah. And again, this is fantastic. Like, anything that can celebrate that and reinforce that, I think is fantastic. So thank you for having this up in the first place.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Jake. I appreciate it. I didn't know where this conversation was going.
Yeah.
But I was excited for it. I told my wife, I'm like, we're going to be dabbling in everything.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the
appreciate
conversation.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And hopefully I'm catching you at another match here soon. So
Let's hope.
yeah.
All right. Again, thanks for coming on, Jake. And I hope you have a great new year.
Thank you, sir. Right back at you. Thank you very much.